Welcome to the wonderful world of One More Gift for You by Conny Méndez, where eternal wisdom intertwines with the magic of personal transformation. Are you ready to discover a treasure trove of knowledge that will change your life forever? Imagine opening the doors of your mind and diving into an ocean of timeless teachings, where every word is a seed of wisdom that will sprout in your heart. In this text, I invite you to explore the deepest corners of your being and uncover the secrets to unlocking your full potential. Conny Méndez, a revered spiritual luminary worldwide, guides us with her warm and gentle voice through a journey of self-discovery and personal growth. From manifesting your dreams to connecting with your inner divine being, each chapter is a doorway to a new understanding of yourself and the universe around you. Get ready to be captivated by Conny Méndez's words, and let her wisdom penetrate your soul, guiding you towards a life of fulfillment, purpose, and unconditional love. This text is much more than just a simple listen. It's a gift for you, an invitation to awaken your true potential and shine with your own light. Are you ready to open this gift of transformation and embark on the journey of your life? Then join me as we dive together into One More Gift for You by Conny Méndez, the Saint-Germain Fraternity. By examining the archives left by our dearly departed founder, Conny Méndez, we wish to clarify for the knowledge of the students the true history of the fraternity's name. On April 15, 1970, Conny gathered with the group of students she had prepared to become guides or instructors of the teachings she had so courageously brought to the Spanish-speaking world, decided to give organized form to the entire ensemble that had developed around her. She decided to legally register it under the name of Saint-Germain Association. The majority of the participants expressed their preference for the name Saint-Germain Fraternity instead of association, to which Conny replied, "Let's not leave it like this, as the name fraternity could be confused with other fraternities belonging to other religions or spiritual groups, which are numerous and operate everywhere. Let's legally register it under the name association, but if you like the name fraternity so much, let's use this name in practice, and in this way it will be recorded in the etheric plane." That is how, in our books, magazines, and other publications, we use the name Saint-Germain Fraternity, whereas in reality it was legally registered under the name Saint-Germain Association. This legal registration was carried out on May 30th, 1970, and has a duration of 20 years. That is, it will be valid until May 30th, 1990. Therefore, the Saint-Germain Fraternity was never registered by Conny. She later founded the Great Fraternity shortly before passing to another plane of life, but shortly after its foundation, she wanted to cancel it, just like the magazine L'Unité, of which only 2 issues were published. She circulated a document among the guides, of which we keep an original, withdrawing her support from said publication. She did not have time to sign the document cancelling the registration of the Great Fraternity, as attested by the legal advisor of the association at that time. He drafted the cancellation minutes, and when he came to present it to Conny, she was absent in Miami, where she had gone to spend New Year's Eve with her family. That is where she died suddenly from a heart attack, a natural death, almost without agony, as befitting an evolved spirit like hers. After receiving the rites of the Catholic Church, to which she belonged by birth, and to which all her descendants still belong today, her body was cremated as she had requested, and her ashes were brought back to Venezuela, her homeland, to be buried in the General Cemetery of the South, in the family mausoleum. The teachings she left behind were transmitted by the ascended Masters of Wisdom, belonging to the White Brotherhood, and spread throughout all Spanish-speaking countries in a progressive, natural, and safe manner, without resorting to advertising campaigns. For the divine plan, despite adversities and contrary appearances, must be fulfilled, as she stated, and this is what happens for metaphysicians and also for those who are not. You know that. For a long time we have been bombarded with destructive prophetic messages whose only aim is to terrorize with their announcements of imminent cataclysms, providing neither explanations, alternatives, solutions, nor comfort. First of all, my dear sisters and brothers, we do not need to be told what is established in chapters 24 and 25 of the Gospel, according to St. Matthew, well known to all the religions of the planet, and as alternatives and comfort are offered there, I recommend you to reread them and meditate on them, reading between the lines and remembering what the Divine Master Jesus taught, warning against the letter that kills and the spirit that gives life. This literally means that one should not take as an article of faith the images of terror and horror abundant in the Bible, but should interpret the symbol behind the image. But as I will talk about this in more detail later, for now I want to remind you of what has been taught to you since the first chapter of this text, namely, that if you persist in listening, reading, believing, accepting the content of these messages, hoping and fearing to find yourself in earthquakes and cataclysms, it will undoubtedly happen to you, for the law of correspondence, the immutable spiritual law, says as it is above in your mind, so it is below in your matter. And you know well that the law does not fail. Now as we were not created to be exterminated, but to learn to become God's gospel according to St. John, chapter 10, verse 34. Begin already to prove to yourself your inner divinity and your immense power by recalling the great presence that is within you, in all and in all things, for it is the light at the center of the atom. Then affirm, I do not accept the destructive decrees, neither for me nor for my loved ones' beloved presence. I take command, then I remain in peace, for I will have accomplished the greatest thing possible on planet Earth, that is, to align myself with the divine will, which is good and love. Immediately you will see your great power. Nothing will happen to those who are named. But it depends on what this expression means to you, my dear ones. Your manifestation will be so, for we are those who consider all humanity as dear beings, and our decree affirms that we want no harm to our loved ones. You will verify another law, which is one with God. Most of the time the Divine Master Jesus said, 2 or more gathered in my name, which represents the whole. Therefore you will see the repetition of what happened last year on April 6, 1974, when the comet Utech veered away, which was supposed to destroy the Earth. I remind you of something else. Human spirits are like sieves. They contain spaces through which the light of a spiritual message filters, but they also contain residues of many foods that dirty and contaminate this light, making it unrecognizable. The higher self presents truth in the form of symbols. For how can one represent an idea other than by presenting it in the form of a symbol? If this construction is defective, it causes you countless sufferings and negative manifestations. To announce to you the joy that these constructions, ideas, or closed concepts will be corrected, how can I present this transmutation to you? By demolishing the constructions? No, clairvoyant people are most likely to confuse the symbols because they see them with great clarity. The problem is that they interpret them according to the residues present in their mental sieve, and they are the ones who launch the messages. Since you know the truth, do not let yourself be troubled again by announcements of cataclysms. Instead of helping to bring destruction, help to transform the new era where a new heaven and a new earth must emerge. Do not discuss the negative. Do not repeat the messages. Remember the truth. Make an infallible affirmation, decree, and find peace. For it is only thus that unity, harmony, and abundance can manifest for all. Remember that your thought reaches the ends of the planet in 3 seconds, and if you ever doubt this, I will remind you also of the telex, a human creation, which contacts any point of the earth in 3 minutes. Nothing strange about it because thought, which is a divine creation, reaches its goal in 3 seconds. Now, let's move on to what I wanted to clarify and explain in more detail, to read between the lines in St. Matthew where it says, for example, when you see the abominable desolation, let the one on the roof not come down to take anything from his house, and let the one in the fields not turn back to take his coat. It is not to be believed that this actually concerns those who are on the roof of a building or those who work in the fields. It simply reminds you to keep your mind in the presence of God and not to place your trust in material protections, because no matter where you are, the beloved presence is with you, and if you remember it, you will not be in danger facing the threats of war. Suppose you feel aversion towards someone, let's call them your enemy. This feeling prevents you from receiving the manifestations that you think you deserve. For the sacred scriptures say that if you go to pray and remember that your brother has something against you, you must suspend your prayer and go appease your brother. This does not mean that you have to go embrace your enemy, but simply visualize them and mentally say to them, I want to love you. I want to cherish you. Help me to love you. This thought arrives instantly, and in 3 seconds you will notice how the bitterness and discomfort between the two of you begin to disappear. This is what eliminates war, sows peace, and is the famous love one another. Don't believe me? Check and teach. God is peace. You already know that by thinking of God, of something spiritual, of Christ within us, or of God within us, we have already polarized our thought to the highest. So, as soon as we stumble, have evidence of illness, accidents, discomfort, or say or do something negative or destructive, we must remember the presence of God within us. Recognizing this fault within ourselves is equivalent to the Catholic confession, and therefore the error, which Catholics call sin, is already forgiven. You know that the penance given by the priest is a prayer that we make when we raise our minds to the Spirit and do a treatment. People who already know the practice of recognizing an error, whether in themselves or in another person, denying that error and affirming the truth, which is God, connect directly with Him. Every time one connects directly with God, one invariably feels great relief. What this means is that God Himself has forgiven and erased even the effects of that sin. Because wherever we place God, He ordains and perfects immediately in His creation. Imperfection cannot exist where God is, where we feel God. We feel His perfection. The only way to make contact and connection with God is mentally, by thinking of Him. God is love, so when we think of Him, we think of love. Have you noticed that? We cannot think of God without thinking of love. That is, we love God when we think, even if it's just the word God. The Bible says that love is the fulfillment of the law. That means the whole law, that is, all laws. We are in the law when we are in love, thinking of God. And when we, students of metaphysical truth, try to respect God's laws, try to elevate ourselves, to understand, that is, by seeking with all our might, with all our heart and senses, then we are entitled to the perfect peace of our minds and souls. We are with God. We are in love. There is no better will than that which we express right now, listening to you in this discussion that I deliver to you. And Jesus said, peace on earth to men of good will. Peace is the greatest gift of God. It says that when our souls are at peace, nothing can decompose and we can accomplish everything. Do not make an image of peace in the mind. Peace is not being passive or inactive. One cannot be in full and feverish activity and be in perfect peace. It is the soul, the heart, the feelings. It is being content, interested in the task at hand. Being at peace, it is being happy. It doesn't take much to be happy. It takes peace and nothing more. It is extremely important to maintain peace, to learn to be at peace, to know peace, and to value everything, to know what things are not worth saying, thinking, doing, or obtaining, because they take away our peace. For peace is the only thing worth it. We have already seen it. Peace is happiness. If you are upset, no matter what kind of upset, whether it is in your mind or in your body, you are not at peace and you are not happy, right? When you lack money, things necessary for life, solitude, company, anxiety for your loved ones, fear or apprehension for the future, all this is a lack of peace. All these things take away our peace. We could now start detailing again the ways to heal all these conditions that I mentioned, but you already know how to act in each of them, and if you don't remember, you must review the lessons. You also know that the truth you possess, if you don't use it or apply it, is of no use. Worse, it's serious to possess it and not use it. It's the sin of omission. How many people desire a formula to get rid of all oppression that suffocates them, and the one to whom it is given wastes it? For the latter, a very popular proverb applies, neither washes nor lends the sieve. It's the selfishness and waste of the worst kind. So we will not start teaching again what you already know. What we will do is emphasize the supreme remedy, the highest formula to obtain everything that is not necessary at any time, and especially the only way to obtain our instant peace and all the light we need, is to turn to our perfect self, to our inner Christ, to the presence of God. Remember that where we recognize the presence of God, it begins to put order in His creation. it immediately begins to perfect what manifests imperfection, because what we see which seems imperfect, even if it has shape and volume, has no real substance. It can be undone because it is based on a lie. What is based on truth is eternal and cannot be dismantled. But the lie disappears when confronted with the truth. So, you will recognize them by their fruits. If you are confronted with something that disturbs you, that seems very real, try to say to it, "You have no substance. You are a lie." The presence of God is in you because God is the only presence and power. As everything contains divine energy, by invoking it, by mentioning the presence of God, the fictitious form or figure fades away, disappears, revealing the pure truth. This paragraph I have just said is the great formula. It is love and loyalty to God. Study it, meditate on it, put it into practice, and you will see rapid progress, the law of harmony. This is the mechanical explanation of the law of harmony, with which many of you are already familiar, but also a new part. You know that every electron in the universe is in motion, even if a stone, a tree, or a piece of furniture appears static. Each atom and each electron constituting these atoms possesses at its center a light, a triple flame of this source of life, vibrating at a number of pulsations per second that determines the vibrational rate of everything. The very slow vibratory action creates the illusion that something is static, but with modern instruments, we can see an object so amplified that we can perceive its constant, fluctuating movement and emitting rays of light waves that we call radiation. In an individual, vibratory action is determined by their mental and sensory processes. These energy pulsations, these rays of light, pass through the lower bodies and contain a pattern that must be followed or imitated by the electrons in their individual expression. Imperfect consciousness results in an imperfect pattern producing very slow vibrations. Electrons are obedient, that is their main characteristic, and they try to conform to the pattern imposed on them. Thus, the vibrational rate of the person is so slow that it places them more or less at the animal level. The conscious student reaches a point where they must inevitably consciously direct the volume and movement of their emotions. That is, the energy pattern for their obedient electrons, with as much precision as tuning the dial of their radio, the thermostat of their air conditioner, oven, or refrigerator. Generally, a man, upon waking, goes through the usual scenario of his day, remembers all he has to do, but does it with a variety of emotions: hurry, anger, impatience, sentimentality. The mother feels and emotionally vibrates with all the problems of her children, the businessman with all the problems of his business, each with their own pattern. From that moment on, a pattern of violent emotions, convulsive changes, all uncontrolled, incessant, instantaneous, begins. To adjust the temperature of his office or bedroom, man conscientiously adjusts the thermostat to achieve a pleasant, comfortable, uniform and pleasing climate, neither too cold nor too hot. But in the climate of his life, he prefers to govern it according to the impulses of each moment or the provocations that arise. Electrons cannot adapt to these whims. What they are subjected to are electronic impulses, and the disorder is terrible. All systems of the individual's organism and entire life are disturbed, in the economic system, in his own health or that of his loved ones, in mental order, in character or one's own mood, in extravagances, in service behavior, in friendships, in employees, in the car, in telephones, in all dependencies. All are systems that depend on our electronic patterns and that govern our lives and worlds. These are patterns of vibrations that each emits and imposes on their own electron system to calculate a percentage, a sum of values, a general level. Imagine a totally disordered, capricious, fluctuating model to the point of exasperation, impossible to follow or catalogue. The electronic machinery of our individual world, that is, our life current, working with great disadvantages, becomes very slow, very delayed. The individual in his next life will be a man inferior to the animal because he has reason, intelligence, and free will to manage his feelings, thoughts, and emotions. These are the three dimensions in which he lives. But if he does not use or master these three dimensions, they dominate him, and he places himself at a lower level, that of the animal. First, It must be known that this energy that reaches us by tons descends from the silver cord directly from the I Am. It is a constant and eternal gift from our God. He does not measure it. It is our prerogative to use it, manage it, graduate it, direct it, control it, and make the best use of it. At the beginning of life, we did it with all the wisdom of our higher mind. With the fall of man, this has been increasingly hindered, and now we must redo everything and return to the Father's house by the sweat of our brow. In the past, students on the spiritual path had to enter initiatic temples to learn and practice with simulated problems because life was primitive and without the current opportunities. But then the temples had to ascend to the etheric plane because they could not withstand the horrible earthly vibrations, and it is precisely the ideal initiatic school for ascending as quickly as possible. Every moment offers us a lesson, a practice, and an opportunity for mastery, transcendence, and purification. It is easy to determine the level where you are, those who must work to earn their living, those who have spouses and children, those who have health problems, sentimental ones, indomitable character. In short, by their fruits, you will recognize them. That is why everyone must undergo the control of this crazy decree that they give to their electrons. Realizing the quantity and difference of emotions that pass in a single hour, you can judge how many times these poor electrons, whose seal is obedience, had to change speed and quality of radiation during the day. You will understand that permanent progress is almost impossible. The person must consciously stop wasting and start educating their self-control step by step through the experiences of the day, despite external provocations, and precisely by using these provocations offered by childish rudeness and the faults of adults that fall on us as heavily as the Mexicans say. Just as a model is imposed exactly on the electrons, let us see the essence of life or energy descending from the I Am presence to the heart through the silver cord, lighting the immortal and victorious triple flame. This is the guiding intelligence corresponding to what we know as the higher mental body through which the I Am presence operates, to whom it gives its orders. It is our fifth body, also known as the garment of Christ. The sixth body or vehicle is the causal body, and the seventh is the I Am. By remembering, using, and expanding this intelligence, it grows until it takes a form in the image and likeness of God, that is, of our I Am presence. Then, our critical consciousness becomes the Christ. Each spiritual group has its particular dictionary, and it is our responsibility to recognize our images in those of others. By connecting these images, it is called the inner Christ that we love so much and use. The Golden Man, all this merges into one at the moment of ascension, when we realize that our pattern must be constant for us to progress, and that we cannot let ourselves be dominated by fits of anger, tears, or impatience, but that we must put into practice everything that helps us master the impulse, for we can no longer afford a single thought or feeling that is not in accordance with truth, love, peace, balance, harmony, and beauty, for these act as a conductor that imposes what he sees in the score. Our score is the pattern that our electrons, our musicians, will follow. Remember that our pattern is a ray of light in constant motion, vibrating according to our thoughts and feelings, as the beloved El Moria says. Knowledge of this law of harmony is a guarantee against disaster, against the outer appearances of imperfection in the individual world. It is everyone's responsibility to maintain a harmonious flow of the energy that the Father gives us, above all external disturbances and provocations that we encounter every day. Humans take great care of their material possessions with great attention, diligence, and vigor, and yet the most precious and valuable of all, harmony, can be destroyed at any moment and for the slightest pretext, that is, as soon as they encounter negative action from others, a strong word, news from outside, or a boring, trivial condition, such as being in a queue or finding a busy phone line. The God of harmony, the beloved El Moria, recommends that upon waking and before setting foot on the ground, you think of the triple flame of the physical body. Then visualize the small flame of each of the other three emotional, mental, and etheric vehicles, imagining them as three little bright stars, then suddenly expanding them to merge them with the large triple flame that we have already visualized. In this way, we nourish the three triple flames that we have never paid attention to. Once this is done, we put our feet on the ground and, addressing the golden man or the Christ, we also expand it by visualizing it in our heart. Then, we can think of a virtue that we want to develop or something we want to send to a family member or a brother in need. We ask the golden man to act through these three flames because it is much more effective to activate the three flames before invoking him, for without nourishing our three triple flames, we would wait for him to expand them, and it is our job to nourish our flames. Then, you can ask for assistance from any entity. What happens is that the electrons move very quickly and expel the discord they encounter in the interstices. Any pain or discomfort is an accumulation of discord for which the electrons do not have enough momentum to dislodge and expel. When invoking the violet flame to pass through an organ, the vibratory action of the electrons accelerates immediately, and the violet flame dissolves the accumulation. After thinking of your triple flame activating the other three parts and selecting the virtue you want to see act over the next 24 hours, ask the golden man to regulate the electrons of the four lower vehicles, amplified by the ascended master, directing the virtue you want to see act. El Moria says you will be amazed at the progress you will see after a week, and even more after a month of practicing this method. He also says that you will see that what used to irritate you has now dissipated, that your nerves have calmed and stabilized, and that as it takes some time to mobilize electrons accustomed to not moving, you must invoke him, morality, and he will bring you his assistance. Furthermore, El Moria also provides insights into the issues of our era many centuries before the end of an era. The adepts designated to work in the coming era must undertake great studies and programming. Their tasks are gigantic. Firstly, they must consider that one era is always positive and the other negative, which automatically leads to a conflict of interests, tastes, tendencies, etc. This conflict, although natural, must be mitigated, softened, and contemporized. The love of the great masters and beings of light is always attentive to avoid friction and clashes between the customs of the ending era and those beginning. For example, in the past era of Pisces, the aspect was negative, mystical, emotional, with a tendency to withdraw into convents and monasteries for contemplation. Everything in this era aided the mystic, the saint. India developed a system of meditative yoga. Solitary introspective life is not only an authentic path, but having achieved union with the higher self, the inner teacher, was and still is the goal of every spiritual path. It's a triumph that cannot be disturbed by any more modern trend. Conversely, the Aquarian era is extroverted. The tendency is towards the internationalization of everything. The order is to work for others, to unify public activities, and to work for the community. The masters cannot allow themselves to be hurt and mistreated by those who have achieved so much through inner contemplation, but hippies have the right to cause any destruction they can compared to the old order, as they are driven by Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, as we will see later. The adepts who manipulate the spiritual forces of the new era have the difficult task of anticipating the future, preventing the work of the adept brothers of the previous era from being nullified, attempting to protect the conservative majority attached to old religious customs, and dealing with the negative forces that take advantage of any change to cause trouble. And Uranus, as the ruler, is the lord of the house of Aquarius. Aquarius is simply the sign that is entering. It is not a planet. Uranus is the ruling planet that has its own vibrations and influences everything on Earth. The sign that departs carries its currents. The one entering brings its own, and they are in conflict. As long as the house is not cleared of the old currents and the new currents are not installed, there is always a great revolution, for good and not for evil. Uranus is an extremely strong vibratory center. Although it is so far from the Earth, its vibrations dominate it to such an extent that it is called the destroyer. But in reality, it is an innovator. It is the one who restores balance in Aquarius. Yet we still perceive it as a monster. Notice that its influence greatly enhances chemistry, science, magnetism, the marvelous, the eccentric. That's why it disproportionately stirs science fiction, the scientific production of monstrous creatures, everything strange, unexpected, bizarre, sorcery, magic, necromancy. It is strongly masculine and seems to hate women, which is why it puts interferences in heritage, which destroys it. There is no domestic happiness under Uranus. The planet Neptune is the opposite of Uranus, and these two opposite influences are now in direct conflict. Uranus is mental and airy, Neptune is aquatic and sentimental. Both sexes, instead of finding their complement in each other, feel frustrated and withdraw into themselves, seeking union, mystical marriage. This is for the ego to free itself from personal desires for the future. As Uranians are androgynous, they favor individualism in the lower plans. This influence produces homosexuality, which explains why there is such an increase in this condition at this time. The conflict between egos drives them to seek themselves, but the habit or imposed image of seeking the soulmate externally leads them to make the mistake of seeking such a union with someone of the same gender. All of this will be corrected, appeased, normalized by the era, for an entire era is nothing but the extension of a terrestrial month. It's the next form. You know that months are divided into 3 parts called decanates by astrologers. Each decanate lasts 10 days. For example, the 21st of the current month marks the beginning of a sign until the first day of the following month. This is the first decanate. On that day, it marks the entry into the second decanate, which lasts until the 11th day. The 11th day marks the entry into the third decanate, which lasts until the 21st day, when the sign changes. Some claim that the dates are 20, 30, 10, while others assert they are 22, 2, 12. No one can guarantee it because these are cosmic epochs, and in the cosmos there is no time. What is above is below, and vice versa. An era has its first decanate, which lasts 700 years, then its 2 other decanates, each lasting 700 years, totaling 2100 years, the exact duration of an era. While one enters or exits the first 700 years until around 2650, the Earth will be governed by the renewal of Uranus, transforming the physical and etheric center of humans, that is, the vitalization order, which will be different from all previous ones, as Uranus, a mental influence, will develop the will so that every human being can control the subconscious without needing to consult a psychiatrist or psychoanalyst, and by purifying it themselves. It is significant that Uranus is purple, and that these first 700 years are also under the direction of the first blue ray. Uranus will renew this vitalization center that has so far been called the awakening of the Kundalini. It seems that at this time, the center is in the heart and is called the Christ. In general, this awakening is expected at the end of the first decanate, according to metaphysicians. That's why it's said that metaphysicians are 1,000 years ahead of the planet Earth. Will seems to be the most important thing in an individual's life and every individual's life. The will I want to convey is as follows. For example, you are presented with an apple and a mango and asked which one you desire. You answer the mango. That's your will, but one could say it's a preference because you were asked to choose. But in this other example, I decided to organize an art exhibition and I make a list of people I want to invite. In this case, I wasn't asked to choose, it's my will to organize an exhibition, and it's my will to express the desire for the invited people to attend. I didn't make a gesture of will, there's no reason to. I suppose if someone tries to stop me, on the other hand, the age of Aquarius is extroverted. The trend is towards the internationalization of everything. The order is to work for others, to unify public activities, and to work for the community. Masters cannot allow themselves to be hurt and mistreated by those who have achieved so much through inner contemplation, but hippies have the right to cause all the destruction they can, compared to the old order, because they are driven by Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, as we will see later. The followers who manipulate the spiritual forces of the new era have the difficult task of anticipating the future, preventing the work of the adept brothers of the previous era from being nullified, trying to protect the conservative majority attached to the old religious customs, and reaching agreements with negative forces that take advantage of any change to cause trouble. And Uranus, as regent, is the lord of the house of Aquarius. Aquarius is simply the sign that enters. It is not a planet. Uranus is the ruling planet which has its own vibrations and influences everything on Earth. The departing sign carries its currents, the entering one brings its own, and they are in conflict. As long as the house is not cleared of the old currents and the new currents are not installed, there is always a great revolution, for good and not for evil. Uranus is an extremely strong vibratory focus, although it is so far from the Earth. Its vibrations dominate it to such an extent that it is called the destroyer. But in reality, it is an innovator. It is the one who restores balance in Aquarius. Yet, we still perceive it as a monster. Notice that its influence greatly increases chemistry, science, magnetism, wonder, eccentricity. This is why it greatly agitates. Science fiction, the scientific production of monstrous creatures, everything strange, unexpected, bizarre, witchcraft, magic, necromancy. It is strongly masculine and seems to hate women, which is why it places interferences in heritage which destroys it. There is no domestic happiness under Uranus. The planet Neptune is the opposite of Uranus, and these two contrary influences are now in direct conflict. Uranus is mental and airy, Neptune is watery and sentimental. Both sexes, instead of finding their complement in the other, feel frustrated and retreat into themselves, seeking union, mystical marriage. This is for the ego to be freed from personal desires for the future. Since Uranians are androgynous, they foster individualism in lower plans. This influence produces homosexuality, which is why there is such an increase in this condition at this time. The conflict between egos drives them to seek themselves, but the habit or imposed image of seeking the soulmate externally leads them to make the mistake of seeking such union with someone of the same gender. All this will be corrected, appeased, normalized by the era, because an entire era is nothing more than an extension of an earthly month. It is the following form. You know that months are divided into 3 parts called decanates by astrologers. Each decanate lasts 10 days. For example, the 21st of this current month marks the beginning of a sign until the first day of the following month. This is the first decanate. On that day, it marks the entry into the second decanate, which lasts until the 11th day. The 11th day marks the entry into the third decanate, which lasts until the 21st day, when the sign changes. Some claim that the dates are 20, 30, 10, while others assert they are 22, 2, 12. No one can guarantee it, because these are cosmic epochs, and in the cosmos there is no time. What is above is below, and vice versa. An era has its first decanate, which lasts 700 years, then its 2 other decanates, each lasting 700 years, totaling 2100 years, the exact duration of an era. While one enters or exits the first 700 years, until around 2650, the Earth will be governed by the renewal of Uranus, transforming the physical and etheric center of humans, that is, the vitalization order, which will be different from all previous ones, as Uranus, a mental influence, will develop the will so that every human being can control the subconscious without needing to consult a psychiatrist or psychoanalyst, and by purifying it themselves. It is significant that Uranus is purple and that these first 700 years are also under the direction of the first blue ray. Uranus will renew this vitalization center that has so far been called the awakening of the Kundalini. It seems that at this time, the center is in the heart and is called the Christ. In general, this awakening is expected at the end of the first decanate, according to metaphysicians. That's why it's said that metaphysicians are 1,000 years ahead of the planet Earth. Will seems to be the most important thing in an individual's life, and every individual's life. The will I want to convey is as follows. For example, you are presented with an apple and a mango and asked which one you desire. You answer the mango. That's your will, but one could say it's a preference because you were asked to choose. But in this other example, I decided to organize an art exhibition and I make my list of people I want to invite. In this case, I wasn't asked to choose. It's my will to organize an exhibition, and it's my will to express the desire for the invited people to attend. I didn't make a gesture of will, there's no reason to. I suppose if someone tries to stop me, then maybe I would make an imperious gesture against whoever tries to divert my decision. So, in this case, It would be a decision and a passive preference without violence or effort. This will I am referring to is the one respected as free will throughout the cosmos, and it is respected in a way that is important to know a little later, because it is very important to know it. Now I want you to notice the following. The principle of correspondence makes blue the first color found in the individual's causal body, just like God the Father's own healing. Blue represents or symbolizes God's will, and also orders the head of the higher self. It is the first color we find, and note well that it represents the will, whether it be God's or ours, as the image and likeness of God that we are. Whenever we undergo treatment or prayer, we say, according to the will of the Father, meaning that above all we desire to fulfill and see fulfilled the will of God in the matter we are addressing. As above, so below, God's will above all, individual will governs its entire manifestation to be perfect. We are willing to prioritize God's will above our own. Now, truth students are at a very advanced level of evolution. Starting to study, they already know how to say with all propriety, I am not on the plane of material laws, I am under grace. Being interested in spiritual matters, the will has already begun to seek God. I told you that individual will is the most important thing in an individual's life and is respected by the entire cosmos. Now imagine what this means in terms of the respect you deserve from angelic hosts and higher and lower planes, and with the latter even more, because the lower planes cannot even approach to disrupt individual will. There is a barrier preventing it. If the individual does not know this and believes that everyone can interfere, hinder, prevent, or interrupt, well, that's what happens to them. But considering that their will is the most respected, the most important thing for the entire cosmos, then truth liberates them and gives them security and great faith. The respect for individual will is so great and so important that there is a law known throughout the cosmos, which is as follows. One cannot provide assistance if it does not come directly upon request from the octave where the need originates. This means that to address a material need, neither saints nor masters can intervene directly. Prayer must not only come from one's own plane, but from the particular octave. An octave is a subdivision of a plane. Just as there are 7 octaves in the plane, there are countless octaves in the planes. These are subdivisions that govern universal harmony. Let's say someone has a wound. As long as that person heals their wound with ointments, creams, powders, bandages, and material objects, their spiritual healing power does not move, does nothing to heal that affliction. And you say to yourself, so does God not care about me in this case? Everything is on hold awaiting the slightest sign of change from the individual. There are silent guardians on all planes, attentive to the slightest glimmer or change in intensity in the darkness, to fly with the message to a being of light who comes to intervene. But as long as the individual shows no signs of this change, no one interferes. It is assumed that it is their will to heal themselves, and no one restricts their decision. That's why it's said that the request must come from the individual's own octave to be considered. The great masters say, if it weren't for this law, how long ago would we have saved the earth from its ills? Now as for angels, it's different, says an occult principle. The species of angels descends to the level of atoms. This means that where nothing and no one can reach, neither a saint nor a master, an angel can access it. No entry is forbidden to them, no door is closed to them, because they are made of purified feelings, while humans are mixed with selfishness, fear, hatred, and vengeance. But the pure part of any feeling brings the angels to see if they can help. I always tell you to put an angel whenever it's about protecting a child, a house, doors, windows, or anything. That's why the slightest feeling is perceived by the silent guardian angel, who precisely observes these changes and calls those directly involved to come and help. It seems incredible that the only creation of God that possesses the faculty of free will is this humanity, this human being that each of us is, and that because they possess this divine gift, we are the only ones who have dared to create discord, hatred, wars, hunger, disorder, debauchery, and wickedness. And we will verify this assertion. Below man are animals, birds, insects. They do not have free will because they do not even reason. They are almost automatons directed by a higher spirit called group spirit. And these never deviate from their fundamental principle: love, life, harmony, and light. Above man are the ascended masters, the angelic cohort, and the cosmic beings who never deviate from their fundamental principle: love, life, harmony, and light. Within humanity itself, there are advanced individuals who, knowing their beloved presence and realizing what free will implies, ask for nothing else but union with the beloved higher presence and for the divine will to be done, not theirs, because of this free will. It is because of this free will that our Earth is 50 centuries behind. It is stuck at the same point. It does not retreat, but does not advance. And why? I will tell you. You know that man has several bodies, one for each plane of life. These planes number 7, each with 7 subdivisions. But we will only talk about 3 of these planes, namely the physical plane, the astral plane, and the mental plane. In other words, the physical body, the astral body, and the mental body. Of these, the physical body consists of 2 distinct parts: the dense part formed of solids, liquids, and gases, and the invisible part formed of 4 types of very fine matter. This part is called the etheric double, not to be confused with the etheric plane or body. It is part of the mental plane. The double is identical to the physical, but resembles a greyish mist. It is larger than the physical, meaning it extends beyond the physical by 4 centimeters, because its function is to absorb the rays of the sun and distribute vitality throughout the physical body. It is not difficult to see. It is called the health aura, because when a person is healthy, it is bright, and when sick, it appears dull. Hindus call this vitality prana. This double must never separate from the dense body. It must not be used for clairvoyance or for traveling in space. It is the protector and vital supplier of the body. However, certain abnormal things can cause it to separate a little, such as a very strong blow, excessive anger, terrible emotion, despair, poor health, drugs, and self-hypnosis. This leads to a disastrous condition called mediumship. Mediumship is an anomaly, so it is an illness, a disorder. My dear children, mediumship is not a gift from heaven or a proof of greatness. It is negative and should not be practiced. It must be healed, as it is a psychic illness. Now, as humanity has less control over its emotional outbursts, whether positive or negative, I mean anger and sadness, as well as pleasure, it exposes itself to all kinds of accidents and illnesses. All this exposes it to the separation of the etheric double. There are certain sects that we do not need to name, which teach the entire planet to enter into mediumistic trance through rites, relaxations, monotonous chants that induce self-hypnosis, and this separates the double from the dense body. At each séance of spiritualism, the medium ends up in deep exhaustion. They are seen emaciated, panting, suffering from terrible palpitations. All this because when the double separates from the physical, it deprives the latter of vitality. If something frightened the medium, they could die from it. No sensible person should ever practice mediumship or spiritualism because it is extremely dangerous. Furthermore, the medium is a passive instrument of foreign influences. Elevated spirits never approach an impure body. Mediumship is the antithesis of adoption. Generally, it is the very low spirits of the astral subplanes who come to take advantage of the medium's vitality. If they are nature spirits, they cannot stand human emanations and do not approach them. Mischievous spirits love to mystify, deceive, and impersonate great figures. Intelligent people can almost always expose them. The messages they give are often read by the same spirits in the person's memory or consciousness. The spirits of the purported dead often can draw near, but it's always those heavily laden with impurities who seek solace from the living. Indeed, if there exists spiritual clairvoyance, it is as distant from the psychic plane as a star is from a firefly. Only an adept can consciously and voluntarily separate their etheric part, for they know how to master themselves and subdue the lower powers. All that has been said is what has kept humanity stagnant in a psychic environment from which it is very difficult to extricate oneself. This is one of the main reasons that keeps humanity behind by 5,000 years after surpassing the 5 worlds: mineral, vegetable, animal, human, and astral. when we should have entered the mental plane and been at the threshold of the spiritual plane, manifesting Christ. We are approaching the golden age, the initiation of the Earth, where it must ascend towards the orbit of Venus, while we should already be one race, the children of God. It turns out we are stuck in the astral plane, struggling alongside 4 other races that came here when their incarnation was scheduled, thus hindering their progress. And this results in more than half of the Earth's inhabitants being unable to withstand the accelerated vibrations that will soon begin to manifest in the Earth's journey into the higher orbit. This amount of humanity will have to go to other planets lower than ours, and we already see them leaving. It won't be, as most believe, because of a comet carrying away this majority with a trail. That's fantasy. They are not departing from natural death or plane crashes, marine disasters occurring during collapses, earthquakes, etc. Everything that carries off large groups, we see them arriving more and more each day. The masters are trying to overcome this condition of delay, and for 172 years, they have been sending advanced teachings to Earth to make us leap towards the mental plane. The first master they sent was called Indio, who brought the new thought, from which we named the Metaphysical Review. Since then, other groups have followed, among them Christian Science and Unity, all based on the law of mentalism, which controls and balances the aforementioned anomalies of the emotional body, and which holds back the entire planet in its delay. It's very important to remember that it's not about transmuting or destroying emotion. It's simply about balancing it with the development of intelligence. Every creation contains a balanced feeling and thought, because if the creation contains a greater quantity of one or the other, it leads to distortion. The Earth is laden with a grotesque effluvium of deformed creations, especially in the lower planes of the astral, where emotional disorder and hence hatred reign. Mediumship, through the separation of the etheric double, must not be tolerated to govern humanity and the planet. I repeat, if there exists a very high-level spiritual communication, it is pure and cannot descend into impurity. The purest one that exists is called light and sound. In addition to purity, it requires such a special training that it takes 30 years to manifest in the prepared person, just as in what is called the medium of contributions. The medium cannot control the manifestation, and when least expected, objects fall from space. The same goes for light and sound, meaning the voice of the master and the letters and words made of light appear in the air and are visible to all present, because the medium is already a magnetic field. So, if someone tells you they are a medium of light and sound, don't believe it, as that should not be disclosed. It's clear and visible. Reread this lesson several times to understand well the mechanisms it contains. Do you know what personal magnetism is called? The masters say that with every heartbeat, an intelligent flame emanates, emitting light composed of octagonal-shaped electrons like an 8-sided polygon. Visualize it as one of those necklace pearls resembling diamonds. This electronic substance surrounding us thus forms into a large halo. When these electrons emanate from our heart, they linger in our atmosphere, and each of us is, so to speak, wrapped in ice. The nature and character of each determine the size, condensation, and force of this electronic substance surrounding each of us. It's possible to feel the personality or personal magnetism of a person upon entering their presence. According to the size and strength of personal magnetism, a person is capable of dominating a group, a large mass, or an entire nation. It's like a wave that encompasses and influences. If the magnetism is negative or malevolent, the effect is counterproductive. If it is positive and constructive, the influence will be beneficial. Those with negative magnetism become dictators, while those in contact with their beloved presence and with the ascended masters are imbued, transformed, and filled with the power of God. This is a human creation of hundreds of thousands of tons of impure substance that covers and obscures the light that should radiate from the planet Earth. This opaque thing is what is called the astral plane. Learn this well to know from now on what the astral plane is, to be wary of supposed messages, and to ask for a lot of discernment regarding them. Beneficial magnetism naturally exerts an influence of divine radiation awakening Christs, making others more alert and self-aware. We have been tasked with clearing the earth of the astral substance that obscures it, as you all already know. It is very important to know the cosmic mandate according to which the earth must emit a greater amount of light. This means that all those who have disciples and who teach fraternity must immediately begin to teach them to respect the cosmic mandate as follows. We suggest the following invocation to start the daily meditation and thus tackle this very important task entrusted to us by the law of one. And in the name of the beloved I am presence in me, and in all my incarnated and discarnate brothers, I decree that I am the law of forgiveness and the transforming flame of all disharmonious action and all human creation of mine and of all humanity. I am the immortal and victorious flame of the three particles of life, and, according to the cosmic mandate, I invoke the beloved lords of the elements, Helios and Vesta, and Aries, Neptune, and Lunara, Euro, and Virgo, to purify the entire atmosphere of the earth, all elementals and all human beings, to restore them to their original splendor. I pray to the beloved ascended masters to shine their light into my consciousness and into that of all my brothers to clean the dirt of the centuries. All of this I ask and decree in the luminous presence of the beloved Gautama and the perfect balance of Polaris and Magnus, charged with leading the earth towards its ascension to the orbit of Venus. As I continue to tell you, enormous disasters continue to occur all over the planet Earth. I remind you that there will be no planetary cataclysm. Only isolated cataclysms will occur, in which groups of people will disappear because they will not be able to withstand the increased vibrational rate as the planet straightens up and increases its frequency to ascend to the more advanced orbit of the planet Venus. Think that if these people were to feel the Christ awakening while still in the Piscean consciousness state that they resist letting go, they would become mad, suffering from much worse moral conditions, because it wouldn't be for a short and sudden moment, but for a long duration. I mean, an unbearable and continuous torture. Therefore, when you hear about disasters such as plane crashes, hurricanes, earthquakes, etc., address the beloved presence and thank it on behalf of the victims, because its infinite mercy protects them from something worse. Don't ask for manifestations, as these signify stages of evolution and purification. Just be content to thank and envelop everything in the violet flame to create your prosperity, brother. What happens to dedicated and elevated individuals in the Christian doctrines that were still recently in force is that they believe in the separation of heaven and earth, body and spirit, as if God were in one and not in the other. It is often heard that God will take care of these things, as if God could neglect his own essence. When the Bible says that God is everywhere, it doesn't suggest that God is in the great things and not in the small ones. Everywhere doesn't need qualification, it's everywhere, all and parts. Our bodies are on earth. It would be missing for God to scorn the temples that he himself created to be able to dwell on earth, precisely because he is on earth and not in outer space. Oh my, the Father who has neglected nothing at all has arranged things in such a way as to create everything that is necessary in this plane and in all planes. The lesson is given to us in the Our Father of every day. Give us today. This means that we must claim what we need and which is already ours, but no one else but ourselves can know what we need. The word bread covers everything: money, clothing, travel, studies, food, entertainment, work, etc. And since we are all children of God, essences of the Father, he has given us the magic formula to claim, ask, decree, or create, and that it falls now, right away, without delay, using the name of the Father, which is I Am. By pronouncing the words I Am, says Saint Germain, all creation and all creative essences hang in suspense, awaiting what comes next to produce it instantaneously. So powerful is the word, the creative logo I Am, that it sets in motion every attribute of God, and if we leave it alone, the manifestation is instantaneous. What happens is that we oppose doubts, fears, or contrary negative words, like those you often pronounce in 5 minutes, and the creation that should save us is annihilated. Make no mistake, the same force with which I Am goes out to execute the positive command executes the negative command if it is given every time I Am or I Am is pronounced. for it is the same person speaking. That is why people spend years in depression without being able to get out of it. Sometimes people who are taught this find the task of correcting themselves by being attentive to all their expressions somewhat difficult, and to get out of it, they say, "I don't believe in that," thinking they are thus eliminating the action of the law. But ignorance of the law does not exclude punishment. What you have actually done is waste the opportunity to finally sit in heaven, and this opportunity may not present itself again in many lifetimes. Start ordering what belongs to you now. I am the presence of God in my business, in my life, in all my affairs. As a child of God, I cannot lack anything, much less money, for it is the symbol of God's substance and abundance on earth. I am God's wealth. I am the affluence and abundance of everything I need. As above, so below, and if I have peace and order above, I cannot have anxiety and disorder below. The top and the bottom are one and the same thing. Thank you, Father. You have heard me, and you always hear me. Start ordering now. And up to 4 times a day you can listen to this or repeat the affirmations I have given you for an entire week. You have a lot to forgive yourself for, as you have only decreed poverty, a lack of money in your pocket and your bank account. I cannot, I don't have, there is nothing. What is this, Lord? All this is a lie, and you lie at every step, every day. I see you as perfect, brother. You are good, generous, noble. You are enchanting. I see in you only one terrible flaw. Fortunately, it is unconscious. But as I have already told you, unconsciousness or ignorance does not eliminate punishment, and you have proof. The flaw is that you spend your time proclaiming God's misery, meanness, and greed. Every time you say, "This business is like this," it represents you, and you are I am. You defame God within you and constantly decree misery. Decree the following, in the name of my presence. I decree that absolutely no one will come to claim payment until there is enough in this cash box to pay it. I order that no one will ever come to claim payment if the cash box does not have enough to cover it, and there will always be enough to cover it generously and even stay in. Surplus. I decree it in harmony for everyone, under grace and in a perfect way. Thank you, Father. Every morning, bless your business. Bless everything you may need and acquire. Surround with love all those who owe you money, and declare for them only the presence of God. I am active in them. Bless your bank account, bless the cash box, and say at the same time, I am the presence of God in this. If you respect God in this way, with all your determination, discipline, and will, you will see miracles. Repeat every morning when you wake up. Thank you, Father. Everything is covered today. The secret of all this is that there is no future, only eternal present. You decree forever, for the eternal today. And when, by divine order, bills to pay, obligations and unforeseen events begin to arrive, they are already covered in this constant and eternal today. This is the supreme treatment. I come to give you the highest treatment we have received so far, a treatment that surpasses all other treatments and makes them unnecessary and superfluous. This treatment was given through the bridge to liberation, by the greatest representative of the Holy Spirit before the planet to transform the world. When you open your eyes in the morning, think of the sun, visualize yourself centered on it, and affirm, I am the shining and radiant presence of God, without limitation, without time or age, without impurity and without imperfection. Meditate on this affirmation as follows. You speak the pure truth, for you are your permanent atom, which is the presence of God within you. By visualizing yourself centered on a sun that encompasses everything around you, you have amplified the brightness and radiance of your permanent atom. You have become a focal point, a contact, an agent of God, and everything that enters your radiation during this day awakens to the presence of God. Everything you think, everything you say, everything you touch, everything around you, then remains in this ocean of life that is yours. It is illuminated, and there are only 2 paths. If it is positive, it must continue to perfect itself, and if it is negative, it must begin to purify itself instantly. The greatest thing is that your presence has already enveloped it in a ray before you even ask it, because in your morning meditation and thanks to your affirmation, you have opened the door to it. That's it. You are the conscious presence of God, and in action, you have decreed it with the words, I am. And you know that everything decreed with the I am sets in motion all the power of God and is realized instantaneously. Let's practice it. Think of something that needs to be corrected, for example, poor neighborhoods, clusters of slums without water, sewage, light and food. Do nothing, just think. The truth is that all these people possess the permanent atom in their hearts. Each of them is also the presence of God, and by being touched by your thought, they have entered your radiation. They are illuminated by your sun, already part of your ocean of life. They can no longer continue as before. They must now begin to purify themselves from the image of misery, unemployment, hunger, and diseases that have kept them in darkness. Now think of something in your immediate environment, something concerning a family member or friend, something you can verify afterward. Just think about it, knowing the truth of their permanent atom, their presence of God, and you can repeat your morning affirmation. I am the radiant and shining presence of God, limitless, ageless, timeless, without impurity and without imperfection. It's done. You can repeat it as many times as you want to satisfy yourself that you have done something for this case. But every time you start your day, there is no need to do anything else. You will see how little by little the treatment unfolds by itself, and you will notice that all day long, in all circumstances, it comes back to your mind. You will always be aware of the presence of God within you, in others, and in everything around you. Just think of God, and He enters, dominates, and perfects the cosmography. Most humans know little about the universe we inhabit. Their knowledge is limited to Earth as their own home, to the sun that lights and warms them, to the moon which is our satellite and, by mercy, influences the tides. They also know the stars that appear at night and finally the planets closest to Earth. Apart from a curiosity that has prevented a few of them from attempting to travel to the moon, that's all the common people know beyond their noses. They reject any attempt to discuss vital conditions on other planets, categorically rejecting the idea that they could be inhabited. For them, everything has already been said with the explanation that without air there can be no life. They are satisfied with these superficial theories because they avoid starting to meditate on the possibility that life could have forms different from those they see around them. And faced with the suggestion that a human being could be different in lands and conditions different from ours, they burst into laughter and start joking about humanoid, animal-like forms with vegetal characteristics, etc. The lapidary concept is that if there is no air, there can be no life, forgetting that fish are alive, that microbes are alive, and that there exists a species called anaerobic, precisely because it lives without air. They forget that life adapts to the conditions and environment in which it is born and persists, and that only the violent change from one environment to another for which it has not been adapted is what it does not accept. Firstly, the divine design of a being with a head, features, feet, hands, and essential organs is always the same, no matter the plane or planet to which it belongs. If we could see the inhabitants of other planets, we would be amazed to find that they are identical to us, some more beautiful or uglier, taller or shorter, but the only difference is the matter that composes them. They would not be made of flesh and bone, but of materials in accordance with their atmosphere and the chemical substances suitable for their environment and realm. If the emanations of the planets are of Mercury, the inhabitant of the planet Mercury cannot be made of flesh and bone. But that they are intelligent human beings, our brothers and children of God, is known through spiritual communications. The simple fact that fish drown in our air and we drown in water, but that we have different body structures even though we inhabit the same planet, escapes every human who refuses to believe. A spaceship is a positive thing for those with obtuse and closed minds, but the claim that everything must be exactly like them without the slightest deviation is a sign of such a mentality. How amazed humans will be on the day they learn that they will never be able to travel to Venus or Mars in their fleshly bodies, but in their astral, ethereal, mental, and spiritual bodies. They will be able to travel wherever they wish, from the moon to the farthest planet. Today, in this era of the Golden Age, the Age of Aquarius, led by the ascended Master Saint-Germain, it will be common when selfishness and hatred disappear, for other planets have overcome these flaws and cannot tolerate such vibrations. Humans on Earth will be amazed to know that the so-called flying saucers appear and disappear at will from their leaders, and that when they approach to land, they slow down their progression and consequently their vibrational frequencies, materializing according to the same principle stated by Einstein. When man understands his own equation, he will disintegrate at will and reintegrate elsewhere. When an airplane begins to slow its propeller, where we saw nothing, we begin to glimpse the blades turning slower and slower until they stop completely and become solid, whereas they were invisible a few minutes earlier due to a dizzying vibration. If you cannot think, remember, and understand this last detail, how could you understand or believe in the advanced inhabitants of other planets, let alone believe in the ascended masters? However, it is important that the majority of Earthlings begin to know more about these subjects for the preservation of the planet and themselves. As we said in the previous message, those who already have some knowledge of this teaching and follow the instructions are fortunate to be saved from imminent cataclysms and will help save planet Earth from these events. To those who find these new teachings almost impossible to believe, remember only that just 60 years ago, the possible existence of an airplane, a phonograph, a telephone, a television, a car, or even electricity was not conceived. In a similar state of ignorance is the ordinary man concerning cosmogony and cosmology, although convinced but not daring to admit it, whether Catholic, Protestant, or Jewish, at his death, his body ends with him or disappears into an afterlife better left unexplored. One of the principles of creation is called the law of correspondence, whose motto is, as above, so below, as below, so above. It demonstrates that man continues to live eternally somewhere, evolving and progressing like the child who first enters kindergarten, then primary school, high school, college, university, etc. The Bible teaches that God commanded man to grow and multiply. This is authentic. Man continues to grow and multiply, not in the sense of having many children as on earth, but in a sense that is difficult for us to grasp. Although there is an example, the entity called the Holy Spirit is one of the aspects of God that we know by reference, being in more direct contact with earth. It is not masculine as generally believed. It represents the maternal part of God. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit mean Father, Son, and Mother. The Father is the Creator, God. The Mother is the Holy Spirit. And the Son is every man, all men, that is, the product of the Father and the Mother. Among the known attributes of the Holy Spirit is the very maternal role of giving the first breath to every newborn and receiving the last breath of the dying. You might ask, how is this possible? So many people die and are born every minute everywhere. Well, thanks to the multiplication of their being, in progressing, it happens to every human, angelic, or elemental being to multiply their being and be present in several places simultaneously. This explains why and how we are made in the image and likeness of the Father, who is everywhere at the same time. As we progress, we draw closer and closer to the Father. No matter how ugly and small we may seem now, the newborn is also tiny and not very beautiful until a few months pass. The child, from conception to walking, describes all the evolution accomplished by humanity in thousands of ages, passing through stages of larvae, animals, etc. Naturally, as life is eternal, our elder brothers have not disappeared. They are alive, acting and evolving somewhere, occupying cosmic positions and functions, growing and multiplying. Every being who has lived, every remarkable historical personality in any capacity, exists somewhere today. Of course, at such high levels that we have lost sight of them. But later, you will be surprised to see beings that you thought belonged to fairy tales, names from Greek mythology that you assumed were invented by popular imagination, or, as the term goes, mythical. The true myth is that when they left their mark on the planet, they were not yet gods, but characters who stood out and were later recognized by the public, just like today's Rudolph Valentino and Carlos Gardel, who were a very popular romantic actor and a great figure in tango, respectively. Today, these beings who were mythical are so far above our concepts. To us, they are gods with divine powers. Hercules, the Amazons, Minerva, Helios, Vesta, Orion, Sonata, tranquillino. Don't be surprised. They existed and still exist. Galaxies, systems, stars, planets and suns are creations of creators who were once simple human beings like us. Some biblical editions say at the beginning, "In the beginning, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth," while other editions simply say the gods created, etc. The Elohim are advanced divine beings, elementals, meaning from the elemental realm. The term Elohim represents a degree of mental advancement. The masters possess great nuclear atomic energy, luminous rays, great mental power, great size, and great capacity for multiplication. It is predicted that in this era, science and religion will come together. By this is meant all religions and all sciences, among which seriously figure astrology and numerology, as well as many things that are not yet considered sciences. But the truth is everywhere. All this falls under metaphysics, as this term encompasses everything that is not visible to the naked eye, from air to spirit. To begin, the nature of divinity is divided into 7 major aspects: love, life, truth, intelligence, soul, spirit, and principle. Each of the mentioned aspects has a corresponding attribute in scientific terms. For example, love in science corresponds to attraction, cohesion, and adhesion. 2 or more aspects together yield a third. For example, love and intelligence form wisdom. Love alone would be but a blind force that would overwhelm through excessive giving. Intelligence alone would be satanic. It takes the union of the 2 forces to balance, to rule with wisdom. Each of the attributes has a color, a musical tone, symbols, and a number. Of course, all of this is in general terms, as things then become more complicated in an infinite mathematical progression. But we all have to start somewhere. And this is a very simple way to begin. As all painters know, there are 3 primary colors: blue, yellow, and red. From these come 3 secondary colors: green, orange, and purple. In spiritual language, we don't say red, purple, or orange. We call them rose, violet, and ruby with gold. All colors together give white, which is called the 4th color. The number 1 color is blue. It is the color of divine will, faith, God's power, goodness, and balance. Number 2 is the color of wisdom and enlightenment, that is yellow. Number 3 is pink, the color of divine love, beauty, and opulence. Number 4 is white, the color of ascension, resurrection, and purity. Number 5 is green, the color of truth, healing, music, and focus. Number 6 is ruby and gold, the color of peace, providence, and grace. Number 7 is violet, the color of mercy, forgiveness, and transmutation. All these colors emanate in the form of rays from the central sun. Each ray has a director who guides it with great wisdom. The ascending directors, they are replaced. These are hierarchical positions that the current directors hold. Ascended Master Moria, blue ray; Ascended Master Confucius, yellow ray; Ascended Lady Rowena, pink ray; Ascended Master Serapis Bey, white ray; Ascended Master Hilarion, green ray; Ascended Lady Nada, ruby and gold ray; Ascended Master Saint-Germain, violet ray. Each ray is also served by an archangel and an Elohim. The most well-known archangels are Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, respectively of the blue, green, and white rays. Each ray has legions of angels and cohorts of light. Each of us, as a human being, serves in one of the 7 rays, because by sympathy we have devoted ourselves to one more than the other in our many incarnations. As expected and easy to understand, the government of the cosmos is something very complicated and gigantic, similar in general terms to the government of a nation. For as above, so below, and as below, so above. These good tidings desire to bring you joy, dear sparks of truth. Always on the planet, there are very enlightened, incarnated beings who emit vibrations so high that they dissolve emanation wherever they go. If it weren't for them, the planet would have long been destroyed, as happened with the Atlantean civilization, where the emanation of sorcery was so strong that the continent sank under its weight. The Atlanteans learned to use divine powers, and altered them by using them selfishly to wield power and enslave many. That is witchcraft, the Christmas spirit, this divinatory attitude that awakens during the holiday season. It is a feminine spirit that is over 2,000 years old. It formed with the egregore that appeared at the birth of the child Jesus. Her name is Mary. Although she is not the Virgin Mother, she can be invoked to fill us with the desire to give, joy, and devotion. Very close to the body there is a greyish-white aura. By concentrating the gaze near the edge of the hair on the head, one sees a narrow white aura. This is the aura of health. When the person is healthy, the health aura is a bright white. When health is poor, the aura becomes cloudy and grey. Some seers see it filled with small, stiff white hairs in healthy people, like wilted flower stems in sick people. You can practice to see it and thus develop the ability to see spiritual things. This is the first emanation of the body. After successfully seeing it, one develops the ability to see the larger aura with colors. It is not at all important to focus on diets, on food. The purification of the lower vehicles with sacred fire implements the law of balance and accelerates the desire for spiritual things. Everything will be compensated for, and the physical garment will manifest what is inside. In the Christian era, many rules were imposed, such as not eating meat, eating fish, fasting, etc. That is part of the past. Now, inner purification is what is in order. You already know the importance of decrees in using the I am presence. This personal letter is for you, my dear disciples, given by Conny Méndez on July 25, 1967. Through many channels, I am made aware of the mission I must accomplish. Revelations began months ago. This mission includes all of you. I mean that it is not only about teaching and guiding you, but you must be part of the group, or rather, you are the group that must support and assist me in the mission. My mission is also yours, and that's why I'm addressing this lesson to you in the form of a personal letter that I want each of you to take, as if it were personally addressed to you. I want you not to forget what we are working on. First, I will explain to you how the consciousness that currently governs the earth among humans has formed. Every family that forms, every couple that marries and has children, dedicates itself to accumulating wealth. This fortune, if acquired, is obtained not only at the price of labor and sacrifice, but also by efforts to earn it with all the modern tricks of cunning, selfishness, overcharging, and cheating as soon as possible. Whenever the partner or buyer, that is the payer at the moment, is wealthy, no consideration is given to their many obligations according to their means. They have money and can pay, that's the motto. In turn, the payer knows that more will be demanded of them and tries to get everything at half price, attempting to exploit the seller at the moment. Assuming that they want to take advantage of the situation, whether true or not, it doesn't matter. One must be vigilant. That's the other motto. There you have the two mottos. They have money and can pay, we must take it from them, and we must be vigilant, they want to take it from me. It is the consciousness of theft that prevails everywhere. This consciousness, like thoughts, is transmitted, enters and exits minds, and remains where it finds affinities. It is received by those who are backward, less evolved, and drives them to theft, hold-ups, and crime. This constant attention from one party to another means that one cannot think of anything else. Attention is focused on the poor physical body, which becomes ill with ulcers due to persistent worries and calculations throughout meal hours, with cancer, because the poison of worries is absorbed by the body, and with heart attacks, because the love of the heart is not used at all, that love which softens everything, heals everything. On the contrary, the more intelligence and less sentiment there is, the better it is for business. I could continue to list the ills caused by these mottos, but I think these examples suffice. These mottos and this consciousness spread through all aspects of life. It's not just in buying and selling affairs. In a hospital, one treats a patient, operates on another, while keeping an eye on their wallet. The only love that is evident is that of the doctor and surgeon for their work, but it is not a pure love like the one that this doctor could show by caring for their patients. Of course, there are always those who act out of love, but in general, each one acts as best as they can for personal interests. The surgeon operates as best they can, out of a combination of interests between the case they are operating on and an interest in their reputation, not their virtue. They care little about being labeled as. An opportunistic thief, the essential thing is that they are said to be an excellent surgeon, unrivaled, so that their reputation allows them to charge whatever they want without consideration. Love for their work is stifled by profit. And why all this profit? To buy estates, yachts, cars, to travel, to dress, and to buy furniture. And in return, this reinforces the reputation to acquire possessions that become mandatory because everyone has them. We pay for the most expensive schools and dress children in luxurious clothes, not out of love for the child, but because the acquired or desired social position demands it. This constant struggle requires that the mind be occupied all day with this material sequence, without a moment being devoted to spirituality, to the conditions that will be encountered on the other side, as if it did not exist or were not even necessary to consider. On the other side, what is found is as follows. The physical body is a sponge that absorbs mental, emotional, and sensory excesses. We endure excessive emotionality because we have a body that absorbs, but no one knows that this absorption turns into damage for the organs and skin that become ill. These are the constant attacks of all humans. After death, there is no physical body to absorb, and uncontrolled, poorly educated emotionality runs wild. The being is more sensitized and feels everything deeply. They hear everything said about them by those who remain here, but these do not know that the deceased hears them. They speak, tear down, exaggerate, and slander as they please. The one who hears is desperate because they cannot argue or deny. They beg to reincarnate to escape the torture and obtain the forgetfulness that reincarnation provides, the unconsciousness of past wrongs. This is the hell I have just described. It is purgatory, if the wrongs can be endured until they come out and withdraw. Then comes the day of death, and what matters is that the widow and children are well settled, sheltered from misery or difficulties. It is considered that children have received a good education if they have been taught to behave in life according to this same series of tactics. If it is a woman, let her marry a man of these same conditions. The way to rest the exhausted spirit and feelings, depressed by the force of the negative climate in which we evolve every day, is to give or attend a party to boost morale with what we call tonics, instead of releasing karmas, for that is why we came to Earth. Instead, these karmas accumulate even more, forming thick crusts inside, called crystallizations. To dissolve them, earthquakes, floods, and cataclysms are needed in the plane where they exist. And that's what mediums and seers experience. The collapses that occur on the plane of these crystallizations are due first to the violet light that penetrates certain thoughts, and secondly, to the increasing number of people studying metaphysics and therefore denying defects and asserting virtues. This leads to the collapse of these human creations. It is analogous vibrations acting wherever they come into contact with similars. As above, so below, as below, so above. If here large machines are needed to demolish rocks and hills with hammer blows, the same happens with these crystallized constructions. They need to be broken first, crushed next, and finally cleaned and swept of dust. Now, on the spiritual plane, there is an additional condition that does not exist on the earthly plane. Every monstrosity created by our minds and feelings has a life of its own. They think, hear, and speak. What they think and say is always related to the matter given to them at the time of their creation. If it was a creation of anger, hatred, and revenge, at the moment it is released into the air. At the moment the crust holding it in our subconscious breaks, it flies away screaming everything that made it. It does not want to leave. It is its creator, and it fights to stay with them. Clairaudient mediums hear them and believe they are being pursued by people. They hear in words the thoughts they had towards others, and naturally, as everything comes back, they hear complaints against themselves. This can be called persecution. It lasts for a while as the victim learns to reject, deny, and affirm it, to meditate, to pray, to use the violet flame, etc. But if they are not metaphysical, how do they eventually learn this? They withdraw and go to lodge with other people for whom these mental states are necessary for their evolution. It seems nonsensical, but it is not. A very shy person needs a reflection of decision and strength. This is called the reflection of the action of these thoughts already formed and established in the subconscious. You already know that every time an opportunity arises, the subconscious provides the necessary reflection. If our thoughts have been good, fair, happy, this manifests as a reflection of well-being and a happy situation. If they have been negative, the opposite occurs. Now, by the law of action and reaction, excessive shyness attracts its opposite. The reaction opens the field to the entry and lodging of the opposite force. In this case, it is an advantage that this creation of violence, released by someone who no longer needs it, goes to lodge in the mind of the excessively shy person, because the combination produces a middle ground. Each condition acts on the other and produces the reflection it needed, the shy person. People who are not clairaudient do not hear their creations screaming against them, but they feel horrible discomfort, terror, guilt. They cannot explain themselves, and as they do not know how to defend themselves against something they cannot see or hear, they suffer enormously. All sorts of reasons are attributed to them that are not accurate. They punish and blame themselves, talk a lot in their depressive states, and this worsens them. That is why it is said that initiates suffer a lot. But Providence watches over them and finds people to teach them these things. They find masters and their Christ. They are initiated, already know the way and how to act. Now I am teaching you so that when you face these old states of consciousness within you, you know what to expect and can catalogue them, but above all so that you can transmute them, dissolve them with the lights. Now I will tell you why it is necessary to prepare the disciple to receive the teaching of the lights, because this teaching is very powerful. Some begin to purify themselves too quickly and still do not know what I am telling you today. Some have a strong reaction. These mood swings are old states of consciousness that have already been surpassed. They are called surpassed when one has cleansed oneself of them. This means that they come out of their new cavities and manifest themselves to see if you still need them. Well, they still prefer their old nest to the new home until they realize that, in reality, they feel much better there because they feel important and necessary. They are new and they show themselves superior to the environment, as above, so below, as below, so above. Once they have spent some time in their new environment, one can remember and even talk about a past event without these old ghosts manifesting. Well, a very important knowledge has been transmitted to me, namely, that the Christ consciousness, that is, the Christ being within all humans, the Christ in one word, is not a body but a consciousness. You know what I have taught you, that consciousnesses have a life and an intelligence. The Christ consciousness, or the Christ within us, exists because, at the beginning of our creation by the Creator, what was operating within us was this pure and beautiful consciousness. It remained in the high spheres, waiting for us to reunite with it. It is called the Christ, and all these Christs went to the karmic court, composed of 7 entities of wisdom, and asked permission to exert pressure on each of us, cleansing us of all crystallizations so that we could evolve quickly, eliminating and sweeping away from the world everything that is negative, and establishing the kingdom of heaven on earth as quickly as possible, because the earth is in danger of destroying itself due to lack of light, as you already know. The earth is, according to the masters, in a recalcitrant state, because humans do not take into account, do not want to change, despite the efforts of our guides, light beings, and angels. And our Christs suffer, which is incredible, as you will understand. It is a state of universal chaos that threatens. First, the karmic court gave permission to 2,000 Christs to make the attempt. We are 10 billion human beings, incarnated or not, and only 3 billion are incarnated on Earth at the same time. The trial yielded results, and the permission was increased to 20,000, then to 1 million, then to 10 million. The reason why permission could not be granted to all the Christs at once is as follows. If all humanity suddenly releases them in a voracious desire resulting from a correct and just action in the ignorance in which it finds itself in relation to the immutable laws of mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and generation, the poor desperate to know how to behave, seeing the devastating effects of their actions without being able to explain them, would find no one to turn to for instructions and would become insane, could commit suicide. Perhaps pastors, instructors, and spiritual directors in all countries should first be prepared. You are the future pastors who will support me and will be able to console all those who come to us, seeking help in their anxieties, because horrible anxieties will be felt by all those who are suddenly cleansed of centuries of filth by their Christs, filth that will torment them day and night every night, and give them to their Christs to take them during sleep to the temples of light instruction, especially to the temple of the violet light. Because Master Saint-Germain says that he is ready to repeat as many times as necessary the teaching concerning the violet flame, which will be miraculous against the evils of the era. I will end this letter with the words of the Divine Lord, who was a world teacher before Jesus of Nazareth and Kuthumi took on this role. He says this: "In the name of my own life, and by the power of my thousands of centuries of service, I charge your sensory worlds with the conviction that your Christs are living and intelligent beings, more interested in you and yourselves, for they have given you life and have supported you for millions of years in the hope of seeing an opportunity to externalize your divine plan. You do not want to accept this and allow this God through you to realize his own model of perfection, his mastery and dignity, his balance and beauty, his harmony and freedom in daily life. I am the law of forgiveness and the transmuting violet flame of all disharmonious action and all human creation, from now on and backward until the time of my individualization. I am here, and I am there in all humanity, so that everything I say from now on includes every human being. I am the presence of the Almighty God, who maintains the burning violet flame within my entire being and my entire world, and seals me in a pillar of violet fire that instantly transmutes any human creation in and through me, seeking redemption, or that I may contact my beloved presence in any way, transmuting any imperfection I may have created, and with the authority of the I Am, restoring to me all the strength and perfection I desire. I am now the ascended being I wish to be. I am the conquering presence, and I command my beloved presence to perfectly govern my mind, my home, my affairs, and my world. I am the great electronic energy that flows and fills, renewing every cell of my mind and body right now, in the name, by the power, and authority of the beloved presence and 3 times 3. I am the resurrection and life of all perfection in my life stream, of my eternal youth and beauty, of my vitality and freshness, of my perfect vision and hearing, of my perfect health, of my limitless strength and energy, of my perfect dentition, of my skin, of my bone structure, of my perfect symmetry, of my unlimited abundance of money, of all that is perfect in my world and life, of all faculties of my causal body, of my already accomplished divine plan. I ask to be protected against all intrusions that I go through out of necessity. I am enveloped in my electronic circle, eternally supported, for I am the sacred fire. Everything that comes near me is now and always transmuted in my aura, for I am not here to fulfill a karmic time span. I am here to radiate, and I remain untouched by any lower vibration. I am gentle and humble of heart. I am the divine love, divine intelligence, divine power, balance, and divine inspiration. I am wealth, elegance, joy, happiness. I am the body of Christ. I am the triad. I am all noble faculties, talents, and virtues. I am immaculate purity that keeps my body, my clothes, my home, my consciousness, and my world impeccable. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the open door that no one can shut. I am all that is perfect within me. I am the only power contained within me, the only presence, the only harmony. I am one with the Father. I am the guardian presence that nothing and no one can affect, frighten, or disturb. I am God in action. All of this I acknowledge and request for all my fellow human beings. Thank you, Father, you have heard me. I am speaking with Conny Méndez due to the call made to us by the beloved Avatar, the Ascended Master Aquarius. Conny Méndez has prepared a list of decrees for us to use daily, 3 times a day. Upon waking up in the morning, at noon, and at bedtime in the evening, these 10 minutes must be dedicated each time to contribute to the salvation of our planet. Conny says, you have felt and heard the beating of your heart, haven't you? You know the great secret of the permanent atom within the heart, don't you? You know that within this atom are the three flames known as the triple flame. You know that when someone blesses this atom, the small capsule in which the three flames are enclosed breaks and they emerge. Do not be asleep, these three flames emerge. You must know that the heartbeats attest that the person is alive, so this movement or beating means life. How do metaphysicians call this life? God. God is life. Life is God. We know that with every heartbeat, tons of energy, pure energy, that is, life, enter us. Truth, love, intelligence, power, strength, health, and many virtues such as justice, consideration, patience, faith, that is, all virtues, for they all stem from the three great forces, love, intelligence, and will or power, which are the triple flame. And we know that all of this is God, that is, the beloved image of God's presence within us. Where do these beats, these tons of energy come from? They come from above, from the presence that brings them down through the silver cord, entering through the crown chakra to the heart. All of this is like a reminder to enter matter. The secret of mastery and control. Now take the secret of mastery and control whenever you see, hear, or learn of any fault in others, whether it bothers you, shocks you, or is commented on in front of you, whether you read it in the newspapers or see it happening before your eyes, etc. Instead of commenting on it, repeating it, or thinking about it over and over again, stop for a moment and think of the heart of the person or people involved. Remember the beats of their heart. It is important that you remain calm and in this contemplation for a few moments. Remember that their heart beats in the same rhythm and at the same time as yours. What will happen first is that you will feel calm. Maybe you will feel like sighing. Do you know what is happening? A wonderful miracle has occurred. Your heart and the other person's heart have synchronized. They beat together jointly and voluntarily, even though the other person knows nothing of what you are doing. I will tell you, just as Master Saint-Germain says, where your attention is, where you are, in that you are transformed. Remember? You have entered into the heart of this brother, and as you are the most spiritual or advanced with your higher vibration, you have dominated their lower vibration. You have set it to the rhythm of yours. If you could see what happened in their life and soul, you would see that you have established peace, erased their bad mood, made them gentle and well-disposed. As you know, it is in this state of mind that the gifts of the presence can descend, positive manifestations. Then, the reaction of the Christ becomes instantaneous, because the person themselves has given time to their Christ to listen and respond. This means that you have obeyed Psalm 46, which says, "Be still and know that I am God." You have put into practice what the psalm says, and you have obtained the result it promises. Even if the earth trembles, even if the sea is troubled, even if the waves rise, even if the mountains quake under their force, we shall not fear, for God is in our midst. You have realized that this psalm precisely describes earthly and maritime cataclysms, wars. You have understood that God's action is instantaneous in the sanctuary where the Most High resides. How does he do it? He says that a river brings joy to the city of God, the sanctuary where the Most High resides. You know that the secret place of the Most High is the consciousness of the I Am. Today, we have named this river the positive current. It is the current that you establish from your mind and heart to the heart of the brother you are trying to understand. As I told you, it is instantaneous. For example, I will tell you that this is where Master Saint-Germain says that we must act quickly in emergencies and sudden changes, that we must be attentive and alert in order to respond to the emergency immediately and show our willingness to make ourselves available by immediately coming together to make contact and act dynamically. If we act like this, we cannot waste time in long meditations. The Master says that during this time, the Christ and divine love wait, ready to act as soon as you finish to begin acting. So, I give you here several short, dynamic, and powerful decrees that will act immediately with the speed of lightning. You must recite them 3 times a day, in the morning upon waking up at noon, and in the evening before going to bed. Always keep them with you, and if you find yourself facing an emergency and need to act quickly, try to memorize them so as not to depend on a piece of paper or notebook, but be ready, alert to act when necessary. Start by purifying yourself with the treatment. I am the radiant and brilliant presence of God, without limitation, without time or age, without impurity, and without imperfection. I am the ocean of pure light where life takes shape. Everything that touches my being I do in the second step. Think of the heart of all humanity, of its beats, and feel that these hearts are one with yours. Say, I am here, I am there. I am the power, the intelligence, and the divine love, beloved presence. I invoke the power of my presence to action. I am self-luminous substance radiating in all directions. By invoking it, if something happens that troubles you, I invoke the power of my presence to give me self-control. I am the tranquility that controls everything. I am the only presence, the only power here. Do not hesitate to invoke the presence to action in others. I am the inner master who governs and controls all my mental processes in Christic perfection. I am the positive presence, the passive force, the positive action everywhere against any negative impulse. I immediately suppress you. I take away all your power. You cannot affect me, nor my environment. I command through my beloved presence that this situation be adjusted and manifested in order and harmony wherever I am. My presence in the universe is a constant outpouring of light, life, truth, and liberation wherever I go. I am the image and likeness of God. I am perfection, and I qualify my mind, my body, and my world with perfection. I am here, beloved presence. Use me today in your name, by your power and authority. Beloved presence, locate wherever those I may have hurt in one of my past lives may be, and transmute any injury, any resentment, and any memory with the consuming violet flame. I withdraw power from anything that is not my beloved presence. I give it the only power to act within me. I am all in all things. This formula I am is in all things, and this acknowledgement is there to completely harmonize everything, especially this appearance. I am the law of forgiveness and the transmuting violet flame, and I consume all the misused energy by me since my individualization. I join my heart to the beats of the universal heart, in the name of my beloved presence, by the power and authority I possess. I dissolve all of this, that is, all negative appearance. It is not revealed when or where the Council of the Masters met, from which we will only tell what we know, that it was in the mountains of the Himalayas, that a cosmic entity superior to the Masters gave the guidelines, and that we have some of his words. He first gave permission to teach the law of the One, and that the One with God is the majority. He also said that one man or one woman, fully conscious of these maxims and centered in their divinity, radiating in fullness, can save the world. Then he ordered to form groups of up to 12, that the radiations emitted by the group would attract other people without it being necessary to utter a single word. Thus a crowd would form, and in each 12 groups the 13th would form, which would be the cornerstone or crown that closes the pyramid, symbolizing the Christic ideal in man, that is, his complete formation. When the 12 groups consolidate into one with their 13th group, one person from each of the 12 groups goes out to help form 12 other groups, multiplying this formation by 12, resulting in the number 144 mentioned in the Apocalypse. It is not necessary to strive to do it. Everything is mathematical and automatic by higher ordinance. The more people are added, the more they will disperse and come together in groups of 12, thus forming the Great Pyramid. By order of 12, it will surround the whole earth. There were no orders to form defined organizations or to impose fixed rules. Each disciple who receives the radiation organizes himself internally and is drawn to one of the groups. This is what has happened and continues to happen in the Saint Germain Brotherhood and Metaphysical Hope, with its 3 learning cycles. We have no dogmas or fixed rules. We have no external organization in the form of a local headquarters, etc. So there are no complications of salaries, payments, or commercial procedures that tend to turn everything into a business. The only prerequisite to be part of these groups is to represent within oneself the Christic ideal, in beginners the beloved presence I am, and in people of the second cycle, as these 2 forms represent the same truth. Then share it, teach it, and spread it in the world through thoughts, words, and actions. The Brotherhood begins to give it in Chapter 3 of Book Number 1, Metaphysics in Everyday Life, and alongside the Infallible Formula, and at the beginning of the second cycle in Book Number 3, the wonderful Number 7, Chapter 5, titled The Seven Rays, focuses on the description of the higher self in more advanced terms. The great cosmic entity that ordered all of the above added, "Thus the great group is formed, and each member who raises his spirit to Christ, whether in a house, in the street, in a sanctuary, or in the remotest corner of the earth, will be one with God, and all brothers will be one with him." The Christ, the beloved presence, or the I Am, are the determining factor that causes the body to respond to Christic vibrations by the law of rhythm. These vibrations spread across the globe, multiply, and the influence is carried in a great tide of thoughts. The reason this teaching has remained hidden until now is that the Piscean era was negative and material, but now it will be known worldwide. It will not be necessary to have a leader, only divinity, the entire human race united in God. Therefore, it is not necessary to form sects or a proper organization. Only what compels order and harmony of groups with this union. All sinister negative forces, spiritual, astral, psychic, cannot, black magic cannot, and little by little, rebellions and rebels cannot either. Human creations cannot be above, nor even coexist. It is not necessary to use. Forces against evil emanating from lower vibrations, with only one voice that says no, the order will be imposed. Since all are united and respond in union to any harmful negative influence, national, global, universal, or simply personal or environmental, all that needs to be done is to declare mentally or verbally, "By the power of Christ in me, I address the Christ in you and remind you that you are divine order, intelligence, life, or provision." The spiritual truth of the situation must be mentioned without recalling in any way the negative appearance that manifests. "Brother, I concentrate all the negative vibrations that you have produced and, wrapping them in love, I return them to you with my blessing. You will not have to lift a finger, you will not have to utter another word, and it is better that you do not discuss the matter with anyone. You will see all traces of what happened disappear. In the event that the culprit tries to resist your sending of love, he will destroy himself. But you will know that it will not be your responsibility. It is the law of God that acts." Wonderful news has come from the Mahachohan in his weekly letter. The human being, no matter how weak he is, no matter his limitations, no matter if he feels behind, possesses what we call the power of invocation. This means that focusing on a spiritual being, whether it be an ascended master, a luminous entity, or God himself in one of his representations, instantly causes the entity to move to his side with all its cosmic momentum, which is always much broader than the earth. And the greatest thing is that it responds to the invocation, even if it is at the farthest point of the interstellar universe. As Saint-Germain says, "Even if I fabricate a star, it will continue to shine as long as it is needed." For those who find it difficult to mentally kneel before their inner Christ, let them use the power of invocation by focusing on their personal idea of God. This will help them develop Christ consciousness. Many believe that it develops through will, but this is not true. It only serves to keep the attention fixed on God. I repeat the advice: let go of everything and trust in God. The second wonderful news comes from an authority that is naturally not the result of chance, but of causality. It came in the letter of July 27th to confirm the message I received and spoke about in 6 different metaphysical associations about the plan received from extraterrestrial contacts. Of course, they received the message they distributed, but it is misinterpreted. The message ordered anyone who could to go to the Amazonian territory to be freed from the cataclysms they are expecting, for example in Caracas. I explained that no one was sent to a territory on Earth, and that what they recommended was to invoke the goddess Amazonas, divine complement of Elohim Hercules of the blue flame, representatives of divine will and protection. I offered as evidence the promises given in Psalm 91. Now, the goddess Amazonas, complement of Elohim Hercules, says that the mental form for the session to which she refers is a bridge of light connecting physical Shambhala to etheric Shambhala. and that above shines a sign saying, "The truth is." She explains that when truth is presented to us, obscured by human consciousness, affirm what the sign says. The truth is, and you will see truth manifest because it is the essence of God, and you invoke it immediately. She adds, "My precious children of earth, I come to tell you that the fact that I am the complement of Hercules, being of strength, fire, and power, does not mean that I am not a being of love. I am here as your friend, because heaven is within you. I am in your heart, if you will accept me." As for the transfer to the Amazonian territory, it is important to understand that this is not necessary and that the true message aimed to invoke the goddess Amazonas for divine protection rather than physically moving to that region. It is natural for them to misinterpret the message, since in that dimension where they receive the messages, they are not even aware of the existence of ascended masters, Elohim, their complements, or twin flames. They are not even aware of the existence of the triple flame, nor the violet, blue, golden, pink, white, green, gold, or ruby flames, or the directors. All of this strictly belongs to the sixth dimension that they specifically confess to not knowing. The fourth wonderful news was given by the goddess Amazonas last week at the Royal Teton. Master Saint-Germain was summoned by the karmic tribunal upon his return from the Grand Silence, and in the august person of Huanjin, in all his majesty, dignity, and love, a request was granted to him. From the Grand Silence, Saint-Germain, son of God, said to Wangin, "We have granted a dispensation, and your blessed heart will be filled with joy. You know that until now every little bit of energy given to the disciples had to be complemented and balanced by us, from the spiritual hierarchy. That was the karmic law. This law has been set aside, and all the energy that the disciples of the bridge to liberation want to give will be doubled. Know that until now, we were responsible for everything you asked for, and we had to balance that. Now, every time you decree something, whether for personal matters or for humanity, you will receive double the energy you emit. How much we love this Master. Now, test your love for him, release your energy for the redemption of this sweet earth, as Master Saint-Germain says. Whether through decrees, music, or silent prayer, and you will receive double the energy used. This will accelerate the golden age and bring the planet Earth back to its original perfection, my brothers and sisters. I hope this has completely clarified the truth. Regarding the cataclysms, the alleged destruction of this sweet earth, Masha Johann recently said that the easiest thing in the world is to see, hear, feel the ascended masters or any cosmic entity. All you have to do is think of the one you choose, look at his image or portrait, read his words or messages, contemplate him mentally, or visualize him. I add that you must converse with them, invoke them as we do on earth when we call someone on the phone, because what is below is like what is above. Hello, dear Master Saint-Germain, how are you? Come visit me, etc. Understand that this is a purely mental world. There are only vibrations, even if they say they see each other solidly, like we see ourselves. Thoughts have colors and geometric shapes, like snowflakes. Tan Besant has a book that teaches them. It's called Thought Forms. When you look at the effigy of a master in an image, a ray emanates from the heart and mind of the one looking at him toward that master or entity, that is, toward the realm of that character's activities. Tan Besant textually says that mentally focusing on a master in written form is to attune one's vibration to his, and in fact, one enters the consciousness of the master and begins to absorb his experience, light, wisdom, truth. This is the realization of the affirmation, I am here, I am there. Let us be aware of this by starting with the affirmation that cannot deceive us, since it is based on the I am. First, place the image of the presence before your eyes, then below, the portrait of the master or entity you wish to contact. Now, think of his triple flame in his heart, and repeat at the same time, I am here, I am there. As you wish, you can read a practice or message from the entity to raise the appropriate vibrations. All of this is not necessary, but it is helpful, because the contact is so instantaneous that for mediums, as soon as they think of a discarnate person, he appears. I have witnessed this every moment when Koromoto was with me. Not only did deceased people manifest themselves once, but I started talking to her about my son living in Miami, and she told me, "He is present here." I don't know if he was sleeping at that time, but I don't think so. It was during working hours. Our etheric double seems to detach and go where it is mentioned. How many times have you felt a little absent, sleepy, or lost contact with what you had present? It has happened to me often. Here are two examples, with Nena and in Mari's son's wedding. In the first case, I realized it, and in the second, others knew it. If you do this exercise by choosing the moment when you will not be interrupted, you will see, hear, and feel something wonderful and of extraordinary importance. This is also the exercise I'm going to give you now, recommended by Tan Besant. You will realize when I tell you that he begins his teachings with these words. Most disciples are prisoners of their own bodies. It cannot be emphasized enough that to free oneself from the body, and especially to free oneself from the mental vibrations of others, there is nothing better than transferring one's consciousness to the presence. It is placing oneself entirely in the presence. The more you do this, the more you free yourself from your lower vehicles and become your presence. In other words, Christ in action. At first, the student has no idea what the presence feels like. That is how God himself feels. Some masters must be asked to imbue us with this feeling of the presence. I add here something I found in the writings of Jorge O'Dum. I am the divine feeling in my body and soul. And in this regard, an intense itching began in the palm of my left hand, so intense that I had to interrupt my work, as often happens, to take a pen and note what was being sent to me in this way. Here is what came. The dawn will rise and the divine feeling will be decoded and broadcast in immense ways. That is, rich in every divine substance, all the treasures of the kingdom, everything that belongs to us as children of God. All the means to live in the spiritual plane. As many times as you can, visualize yourself immersed in the center of the figure of the image. Do it now to understand what I mean. Begin to exercise imagining yourself elsewhere. The Mahachohan concludes by saying, this must be repeated over and over by the student, for in this way the lower vehicles have been surrendered to the presence, and the individual has disconnected from the vibratory action of the masses of the planet. When your lower vehicles become the property of the presence, it is natural for them to misinterpret the message, since, in that dimension, where they receive the messages, they are not even aware of the existence of ascended masters, Elohim, their complements or twin flames. They are not even aware of the existence of the triple flame, nor the violet, blue, golden, pink, white, green, gold, or ruby flames or the directors. All of this strictly belongs to the sixth dimension that they specifically confess to not knowing. The fourth wonderful news was given by the goddess Amazonas last week at the Royal Teton. Master Saint-Germain was summoned by the karmic tribunal upon his return from the Grand Silence, and in the august person of Huanjin, in all his majesty, dignity, and love, a request was granted to him. From the Grand Silence, Saint-Germain, son of God, said to Wangin, "We have granted a dispensation, and your blessed heart will be filled with joy. You know that until now every little bit of energy given to the disciples had to be complemented and balanced by us from the spiritual hierarchy. That was the karmic law. This law has been set aside, and all the energy that the disciples of the Bridge to Liberation want to give will be doubled. Know that until now, we were responsible for everything you asked for, and we had to balance that. Now every time you decree something, whether for personal matters or for humanity, you will receive double the energy you emit. How much we love this Master. Now test your love for him, release your energy for the redemption of this sweet earth, as Master Saint-Germain says. Whether through decrees, music, or silent prayer, and you will receive double the energy used. This will accelerate the golden age and bring the planet Earth back to its original perfection. My brothers and sisters, I hope this has completely clarified the truth. Regarding the cataclysms, the alleged destruction of this sweet earth, Masha Johan recently said that the easiest thing in the world is to see, hear, feel the ascended masters or any cosmic entity. All you have to do is think of the one you choose, look at his image or portrait, read his words or messages, contemplate him mentally or visualize him. I add that you must converse with them, invoke them as we do on earth when we call someone on the phone, because what is below is like what is above. Hello, dear Master Saint-Germain, how are you? Come visit me, etc. Understand that this is a purely mental world. There are only vibrations, even if they say they see each other solidly like we see ourselves. Thoughts have colors and geometric shapes, like snowflakes. Tan Besant has a book that teaches them. It's called Thought Forms. When you look at the effigy of a master in an image, a ray emanates from the heart and mind of the one looking at him, toward that master or entity, that is, toward the realm of that character's activities. Tan Besant textually says that mentally focusing on a master in written form is to attune one's vibration to his, and in fact one enters the consciousness of the master and begins to absorb his experience, light, wisdom, truth. This is the realization of the affirmation, I am here, I am there. Let's become conscious of this by starting with the affirmation that cannot deceive us, since it is based on the I am. First, place the image of the presence before your eyes, then below, the portrait of the master or entity you wish to contact. Now, let's think of their triple flame in their heart and repeat at the same time, I am here, I am there. Optionally, you can read a practice or message from the entity to enhance the appropriate vibrations. All this is not necessary, but it is useful because the contact is so instantaneous that for mediums, as soon as they think of a non-incarnate person, they appear. I have noticed this every moment when Koromoto was with me. Not only did deceased persons manifest themselves once, but I began to talk to her about my son living in Miami, and she told me, he is present here. I don't know if he was sleeping at that time, but I don't think so. It was during working hours. Our etheric double seems to detach itself and go where it is mentioned. How many times have you felt a little absent, sleepy, or lost contact with what you had present? This has happened to me often. Here are two examples, with Nena and at Marie's son's wedding. In the first case, I realized it, and in the second, others knew it. If you do this exercise by choosing a moment when you will not be interrupted, you will see, hear, and feel something wonderful and of extraordinary importance. This is also the exercise I'm going to give you now, recommended by Tan Besant. You will realize when I tell you that he begins his teachings with these words, most disciples are prisoners of their own bodies. It cannot be emphasized enough that to free oneself from the body, and especially to free oneself from the mental vibrations of others, there is nothing better than transferring one's consciousness to the presence. It is placing oneself entirely in the presence. The more you do this, the more you free yourself from your lower vehicles and become your presence. In other words, Christ in action. At first, the student has no idea what the presence feels like, that is, how God himself feels. Some masters must be asked to imbue us with this feeling of the presence. I add here something I found in the writings of Jorge O'Dum. I am the divine feeling in my body and in my soul. And in this regard, an intense itching began in the palm of my left hand, so intense that I had to interrupt my work, as often happens, to take a pen and note what was being sent to me in this way. Here is what came. The dawn will rise, and the divine feeling will be decoded and broadcast in immense ways. That is, rich in every divine substance, all the treasures of the kingdom, everything that belongs to us as children of God, all the means to live in the spiritual plane. As many times as you can, visualize yourself immersed in the center of the figure of the image. Do it now to understand what I mean. Begin to exercise imagining yourself elsewhere. The Mahachohan concludes by saying, this must be repeated over and over by the student, for in this way the lower vehicles have been surrendered to the presence, and the individual has disconnected from the vibratory action of the masses of the planet. When your lower vehicles become the property of the presence, you will definitely be the Christ in action at all times. As you can see, this seems to me to be the most important thing in our lives. Personally, I will say, and forgive my personal illusion, since I increased my awareness with my presence, I am in constant and very special peace. Nothing external affects me, as they say. I see things from afar, and I can work for others with great mental clarity, without foreign waves being sent back to me. The great metaphysical secret of happiness seems to be that this recipe is difficult to put into practice, but that is not true. Just try it once, not to forget it anymore. Now, before starting to practice the listed points, the following decree must be made. Once I try it, what I say here will never escape me again. I neither speak nor permit anyone to speak of anything contrary to perfect health, happiness, and prosperity. I make every living being feel what I consider precious. I find the bright side in everything that happens to me and to others. I think the best in everything, hope for the best, and work only for the best. I feel as enthusiastic about the good things that happen to others as I do about what happens to me. I forget my past mistakes and move forward toward greater successes. I have a pleasant expression at all times and smile at every being I encounter. I don't have time to criticize others because I spend my time improving myself. I become so strong that nothing can disturb the peace of my mind. I am too great to worry, too noble to be angry, too strong to fear, and too happy to entertain anything negative. In a letter to the group of instructors the other night, one of my guides asked me what I consider the act of sprinkling oneself before giving a lecture. I planned to explain this later, but several topics intervened and time passed. As I consider the question to be of great importance, I will explain it to you so that you can share it in class when the time comes. From the moment someone prepares to give a metaphysics class, the masters and beings of light also prepare to offer their help and protection. That's why the instructor feels the words coming effortlessly and can answer questions without even knowing he knew them before. This assistance must not only be thanked but also recognized and accepted with love. In advance, by an act of our will, we affirm it more or less in the following terms. The best time is when we are physically preparing to give the class or lecture. Taking a momentary pause, we withdraw. That is, we focus our attention on the heartbeats, visualizing its 3 flames. Once we feel this beat, we gently ascend by sliding the thought along the cord of light that connects it to the center and top of the skull, visualizing up there the great light of the beloved presence. Now, we consciously seek the feeling of their loving company. Calling upon them, we say, "Beloved presence, I offer you this service that I am about to perform. Direct it, guide me, use this vehicle. I invoke the beloved masters who wish to assist me, thanking them for their loving collaboration. I enclose myself in my impenetrable electronic circle and close the aura of the class against any discordant vibration. I am gentle and humble of heart and wish for the violet flame to transmute any temptation of spiritual pride. Thank you, Father, for this opportunity to serve you. You are already blessed. Try to stay in peace and avoid any disturbance that could disturb you or divert your attention from your beloved company until you are in class. This is only a recommendation and remains subject to your free will, but it is also the practice to accelerate this union with the innermost, as the sacred texts often speak of. The search for the feeling of the beloved presence is called by Master Fox a groping search, like searching blindly in a dark room. This same anticipation leads to achieving the goal. It is very important to remember the invocation to the violet flame to transmute spiritual pride, as you well know. But the one who is infected by this worm is the one who recognizes it the least. That is why it is indispensable to be vigilant and always to prevent. One of the signs that it is infiltrating is as follows. When you find yourself taking yourself very seriously, adopting a high authority posture, raising your voice imperatively, descend flying from that pedestal of your own making. You are only another disciple reaching out to help the one coming behind. Furthermore, I warn you, everyone listening perceives with obvious clarity the unconscious clamor that anyone intoxicated by their importance displays. Others perceive it as he ignores it himself. To counter this worm of spiritual pride, as Master Kutumi has baptized it, Master Saint-Germain and Dr. Fox recommend finding something to laugh at and mock oneself before noon. As I also recommend, smile often, introduce jokes. Well, this humble servant strongly recommends using the Creole proverb, deliberately humorous phrases, exaggerated examples. In short, anything that can keep the mind light and the heart joyful. Know that this information is of paramount importance for the gravity of the moment we are living in. Everyone knows that our planet is awaiting an initiation. and that is how we must consider it. We must not fix our minds on negative figures. This initiation is what the Bible has termed the apocalypse, what the world insists on calling catastrophes, etc. It is true that some will not have a pleasant time, such as the passage of the giant called Hercubolus, which is heading towards Earth at a dizzying speed and is expected for the year 1982. That is why I give you these instructions, so that all who can do so take shelter and teach as many brothers and relatives as possible. At this moment, the coming of Astar and the great brothers called extraterrestrials is due to the imminent event of the arrival of Cobulus, a body heading towards Earth and expected in 1982. Even though the Bible predicts in the Apocalypse that the sun will darken and there will be a new earth, a new heaven, Hercubolus is so large that it will eclipse the sun and plunge us into darkness. It is logical to think that an immense majority will panic when this happens. If the journey to the moon has brought about changes in the character and psyche of astronauts, it is reasonable to accept that there will be significant changes with the arrival of Hercubolus. But there is something that metaphysicians know very well, that fear not only attracts, but also manufactures or produces what is feared. And we know that love destroys fear, as the sacred scriptures affirm. Those who know the activity of the violet flame know that it is love in action, and we already use it by confirming this truth. The instruction I am going to give you is intended to be disclosed, shared, taught to neophytes to sow the way to save themselves from what awaits them. This is the simplest and most effective way for those who are ignorant of our teaching. Here is what you must convey. The press, radio, and television will soon be responsible for terrorizing with sensational news and trying to sow panic. We must be vigilant to counteract everything we perceive in our surroundings. The simplest way is to say to all those who are alarmed, "No, do not be afraid, for fear is fatal." Repeat these words, "I do not fear Hercubolus, for I send it love." Insist a lot for them to learn these exact words. First, you can explain that in the face of love, nothing has power, that love is all-powerful, that love is God, which you find the simplest and easiest to understand. Then you can explain to the more informed the following: that the great cosmic beings, the ascended masters, the white hierarchy, are doing immense work to protect the earth with envelopes of love, pink flame, violet flame, etc. Therefore emit vibrations and decrees of love. For example, when I send love, we are not only doing a work of mastery and assistance, but we are also protecting ourselves and saving ourselves from what is coming. The more we do it, the more we achieve it, thanks to Conny's teachings to her guides during the class on Tuesday, August 8, 1967. God's will is goodness, peace, joy, purity, balance, and goodness. And all this has already been manifested and delivered. If the body, which is the temple of the Spirit, because without the body, the Spirit could not act here on earth, needs to take care of its stomach 3 times a day, then there must be enough food for each person. This food exists. It belongs to us. This right cannot fail or falter. God's will is that neither famine nor lack occur. God does not want us to be hungry, nor does he want any of his sons or any brother to be hungry. If they are hungry, it is because they do not know God's will. They do not know that he exists, or that his will is the only power and presence that can act. If you are alive, walking, thinking, and acting, it is because God's will allows you to do so. If he did not want it, you would be dead. It is he who acts through you. He has the right to live and act comfortably in your body. If you were wet, hot, cold, thirsty, or in pain, the slightest anomaly would disturb your mind. You could not think of God, but only of that discomfort. The body is delicate and fragile. It must be healthy and strong. But even if it is sensitive and robust. If it is struck by a branch, or if a wall falls on it, it breaks and hurts. It is fragile and delicate, which is why it is protected by God's will. When that wall falls, or that branch affects the body, God will ensure that the man's body is no longer there. You experienced this during that earthquake. Nothing happened to you because you know God, you love him, and you trust in his power. Those who do not think of him, those who do not know him and do not love him above all else, are crushed by a building. Other things will happen. It seems that this is the beginning, not of other earthquakes, but of other types of events. We must be certain of God, and we are not safe if we are not certain of God. With all the right that belongs to us, we must thank God every day in this way. Thank you, Father, that your will is that my body does not suffer from hunger, thirst, pain, disasters, injuries, or any discomfort, and this is how you manifest it. Forgive all those who forget or ignore you, because they do not know what they are doing. I am the law of forgiveness and the transmuting flame of all their mistakes, and I am in each and every one, pronouncing this name in the name of God and speaking to the Christ who beats in every human, animal, elemental, and living heart. You are the perfect, intelligent, good child of God. You love God and your neighbor, and you want to manifest your divinity. I bless that divinity within you and turn to all humanity. Angels of the blue flame, at this moment, I am the will to think, feel, and act in perfection at all times and under all circumstances. I deny, release, and reject all weakness and lack of enthusiasm. I declare these to be lies, and I decree that I am the supreme will to manifest in all my steps the perfect nature of the Heavenly Father, of whom I am the image and likeness. These words were spoken by Conny Méndez during the Thanksgiving concentration that took place in Caracas on Thursday, November 28, 1974. Will you be among those who find nothing to thank the Father for, or will you be like us, to whom everything deserves our gratitude towards the Creator? If you are not among the latter, allow me to help you a little. Thank you, Father, for the water you give us, which is always there, the water we drink and absorb, which keeps our world beautiful and clean. Thank you, Father, for the air you give us, which is always there. If we did not have air, how long do you think we could survive? 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? Thank you, Father, for the sun you give us, which is always there, light and fire of our lives. If the sun were to go out, we would immediately fall into darkness, blind, defenseless, frozen forever. Thank you, Father, for the earth you give us, which is always there. Thank you for the attraction it exerts on us, offering us a home. May it not leave us to float and wander in space forever. Blessed earth, blessed sun, blessed air, blessed water. These 4 elements are the origin of everything, everything deserving our gratitude. Jesus taught us to give thanks before asking. The Masters have taught us that all catastrophes, all earthquakes, floods, maritime and aerial tragedies are due to the distress of the elementals caused by the lack of love from men, the disregard of the benefits represented by the constant and eternal work of providing us with water, air, light, and earth, and everything that comes from them. They can no longer bear it and rebel against these existing conditions. Every day we see these catastrophes increasing. Notice that the only thing the elementals expect from us is love and gratitude for their eternal work in providing us with water, air, light, and earth. The Masters also say that the straightest path to heaven is that of gratitude. It is clear that if we thank the elementals not once a year, but every day, by repeating these 4 affirmations that I have given you, we would be at peace with the elementals, and catastrophes would cease forever. Message from Master Jesus through his messenger, Lucy Littlejohn, on July 5, 1970, during the Metaphysical Convention on Long Island, a message of love from Jesus called the Christ, which was given by the mentioned Lucy Littlejohn, the instrument who receives the words of the ascended Masters. Since she ascended, she is now Lady Miriam, complement to the love of Master Moria. And it is said thus: I am the one you have known through the ages as Jesus the Christ. Today, I shake the glorious Christ in each of you, my servants in God's vineyard on earth, beloved, blessed. Please remove attention and consciousness from what is human. The human personality, or human characteristics, will see before you a glorious cross sparkling with white light, and emerging from every nook and cranny, the radiant blue flame of God's holy will and protection. Visualize this magnificent cross expanding until it encompasses all this space. Today, I have the great honor to announce to you that on my right stands our beloved Aeolo, on my left our radiant Sanat Kumara, next to Aeolo is Lord Confucius, and next to Sanat Kumara is the beloved Lord Lanto, until yesterday director of the Golden Ray. Directly behind me, see the great Archangel Michael, my cosmic father, glory to his holy name. This is truly a grand moment, but before I tell you what it is about, I want you to visualize the great Lord of the world, Gautama, who is in the atmosphere above Long Island. Today, the immense light of his causal body completely envelops this island. Behind him is a glorious path of light, because today we receive a cosmic edict from the beloved Alpha and Omega, by which we receive a representative from each sun of this system. Each channel of light detaches from the radiation of these beings as they travel to Earth. Think about it. We have an envoy from each planet in this system. You know what that means. It means that we have a unified activity, and I am here to reveal my new identity to you. I am Michael, the Angel of Unity. I have come today to announce that I will be received in Shambhala to continue my service in unity, and that the pulsation of this activity begins at this very moment, that is, the unification of all the spiritual activities of this planet. I do not mean that they are all of the same nature, because the various activities of each ray are necessary, but that each spiritual activity will now feel, from today, the beats of my heart from the holy Shambhala. Furthermore, I have something very interesting to tell you. From today, the beloved Lanto will serve in the capacity that was mine as a world instructor. Alongside the beloved Kutumi and the beloved Confucius, he becomes the director of the second ray, the golden color. Send love to these holy entities who have done so much for you in this incarnation. The pulsation begins today to bring this island to the title of Holy Island, the physical Shambhala, whose entrance is protected by the legions of the Lord Michael, radiating with the blue flame. Dear children of the light, I love you as I have always loved you, and I remind you always to remember that Michael, the Angel of Unity, draws you and gathers you to form a great flame of the heart. Every time you decree in a group, invoke or discuss in twos or more, unite, unify in the inner Christ, and the light of Christ will envelop the entire earth. May the Father bless you. Guidance projected by the beloved Conny Méndez, received from the beloved Manu Chohan Pablo. When the disciple is already conscious, that is, he knows and understands, although he may not intellectually know that the presence of God, I am, is alive and active in his heart, and he senses the beating of his heart. At that moment, what was only a spark of light, a permanent atom, takes shape. The form with lines and contours of a perfect being, the replica of the Christic being that dwells in the fourth dimension. This small form begins to grow within the physical body, and the expression of its presence expands with its development. Then it becomes possible for any of the ascended masters to enter this small golden form when the disciple invokes them. For example, when he generates the feeling of love. Then the master communicates to him what he calls his momentum, the power, and the discharge of his own feeling. When the conscious disciple learns that in his presence, I am, the flame of the divine fire is activated, or simply the divine flame or the divine fire as he wants to call it, he already has the obligation to use this flame for the benefit of his brothers. All knowledge, all grace conceived becomes of use and obligatory employment to serve. This is called balance, that is, income. It is like saying the spiritual tithe to offer to Father, Mother, God for this great gift that we receive in knowing Him, in being aware of the divine truth. Metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. Saul and David. David is one of the most important figures in the entire Old Testament, just as Christ is the main figure of the New Testament. David is the Christ of the Old Testament. Jesus was often called the Son of David, and the Metaphysical Dictionary of the Bible says that David was a previous incarnation of Jesus. The meaning of the name David is beloved, very loved. He was the son of a man named Jesse. In Spanish, they call him Isaiah. He came from a humble family, farmers from Bethlehem, which is Bethlehem, the same village where Jesus was born. It is significant that Father Isaiah or Jesse has the same root name as Jesus, Isaiah, Yahweh is salvation. And David, the name David says it David, life, the vine, the blood. David gives life. Isaiah had 8 sons, All worked with their father on his farm, and David, the youngest, was in charge of caring for the sheep. This is the sweetest work on a farm. The shepherd is outdoors all day, either sitting on a rock or a log while the sheep graze, or walking at their pace as he leads them to water, when he takes them out and guides them in the meadow. And when he gathers them back together, if one of them strays from the flock, the shepherd gives orders to the dog, trained to bark, to make it turn around and reunite with the rest of the flock. They all walk very close to each other and do not easily disperse because of the gentleness of the work. This work is entrusted to the elderly and children to fill the hours spent by the shepherds. They are used to passing the time with an instrument, a flute, a symphony nowadays, and David adopted the old harp. It was a small harp. The child was beautiful, blonde, and very rosy. By associating all these details, look at the name David in its esoteric and exoteric meaning, inner and outer. It represents consciousness already pure, spiritual, living in a plane without struggles, without hard work, guiding others. And these others are also gentle beings, without malice, docile. Notice how the harp symbolizes art, music, which is the divine language. He is a child, he is beautiful, blonde, very rosy. All this is spiritual language and must be learned to recognize because it has no equivalent in words. Words harden everything and make it material. Pink is the color of pure love without selfishness. Blonde indicates evolution, advancement. Cherubs are painted with heads of blonde, rosy babies, a head with two little wings, that is the spirit and the soul, without malice and without wickedness. The prophet Samuel received a communication from the Spirit to go to the people of Bethlehem to seek Jesse, the Bethlehemite, and to consecrate, that is, bless very specially the son of Jesse. The anointing is what is done to kings during a ceremony where their forehead is touched with oil or oleum. God told Samuel to proceed with the anointing of this child so that one day he would be king of Israel. You know that Israel means on the spiritual plane the kingdom of God. Samuel did as he was commanded. Jesse brought his eldest son. Samuel said it was not him, nor the second, nor the third, and so on to 7. Samuel finally said, "I have seen them all. Do you have no other son?" Jesse replied that he did, that there was one left, but he was the youngest, and he was watching the sheep. But Samuel told him to bring him. When he saw him, he said, "It is he." He anointed him, blessed him, consecrated him. The king of Israel was Saul. They were at war with the Philistines, who bothered them enormously. One of the champions of the Philistine army was a gigantic man named Goliath. Once, while their army lay on a hill, Goliath stepped forward, clad in his armor and shield, and said to the Israelites, "Why do you fight against us? Do you not know that we will destroy you anyway? Send a man, the bravest among you, so that we may fight. And let us see what happens, thus we will decide this battle, without exterminating everyone, of course." This caused much consternation. Saul and his squadrons were filled with fear, because Goliath would win and make slaves of them all. Jesse's 3 eldest sons were in the army, and their father had sent David to see them, bring them food, say hello in short, to get news of his boys. David arrived at the moment when this colossus was challenging the Israelites. His brothers told him what any older brother would do with the youngest. "What are you doing here? Who have you left these 4 sheep that Dad entrusted to you? You only came out of curiosity to see what will happen in this disaster. Come on, go home." And David responded as any young teenager would. "Well, what have I done? I haven't done anything. Just talk. And now you come scold me." So he went off bravely, walking around among the men. He heard what was being said among them. Everyone was very concerned about the challenge, and many exclaimed, "If only someone were strong enough to kill Goliath, tell me, what would King Saul not give to whoever would rid us of this man?" And David, with all the arrogance of a young boy, announced that he could kill the giant. They laughed and mocked him, but someone told the king what the boy claimed, as a joke. The Bible recounts that the soldiers put armor, swords, bronze helmets, etc. on him to the point that the boy could no longer move. But he seriously believed in what he said. He said to Saul, "I can't move with all this, I'm not used to it." So the situation seemed over, and no one would pay any more attention to him. The boy approached the brook and picked up 5 smooth stones that he put in his pocket. Then he approached the giant who was waiting with his escort for the Israelites' response. The latter saw the boy but did not pay attention to him. Not even a little blonde and pretty boy deserved more than to be scared so that he would not bother them. But the boy provoked him, annoyed him, and bothered him until the giant threatened him to leave. David threatened him with a stick, and Goliath said to him, "Am I a dog that you threaten me with a stick? Come here, and you will see how I will tear your flesh." The boy replied to him, standing before him with a courageous attitude, "You come against me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, while I come against you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. See, I will cut off your head and throw the corpses of the entire army to the birds and wild animals, so that all this assembly will know that God saves without sword or spear." After these words, the Philistine could no longer bear the boy's taunts. He rose and began to walk toward David, but instead of fleeing, David ran toward Goliath and at the same time pulled a stone from his pocket, placed it in his sling, and threw it at the giant's forehead with such precision that the stone sank where the pituitary chakra is located. The man fell unconscious, and David climbed on him and finished him off with Goliath's sword. Of course, the Israelites took advantage of this by rushing upon the Philistine army, chasing them far away and exterminating them all. Saul, who had seen everything that had happened, was astonished and returned to ask his army chief, "Whose son is this young man, Abner?" And Abner replied, "By your life, O king, I do not know." It's an adventure story worthy of Hollywood. It proves that the Bible is the source of all adventures, of all novels. It contains only material that can provide an infinity of literature, not only popular, but also profound. Well, in the story of the stone that killed Goliath, a metaphysical lesson is encapsulated in the entire book of the Bible. The stone symbolizes faith. Jesus gave Peter this name, which means stone, and told him, "On this rock I will build my church." David's throwing of the stone symbolizes the action of throwing the truth into the mind of another person and perfectly illustrates what we often repeat in metaphysics. Your word, sent with faith into the higher plane to someone who is in error and manifesting externally the result of their error, overcomes and overturns that error, however gigantic and terrifying it may be. An act of faith and truth as harmless as an innocent child has more power than the entire army of evil surrounding it. The whole story of David deserves to be read with great interest and interpreted, as it extracts much wisdom and metaphysical teachings. His entire life is a demonstration that perfectly illustrates the journey of the metaphysical student from the beginning until the day he enters what is called the Christ consciousness, that is, the kingdom of heaven. You see that David was born humbly in the small village of Bethlehem, and this insignificant peasant became king of Israel and had a son who embodied wisdom, Solomon. In his next incarnation, Solomon was born in the same place, Bethlehem, but instead of traversing earthly paths, he had already transcended that because he occupied the highest position on earth. He spoke of his spiritual kingdom. You see how the spiral of the spirit always rises. Now let's talk about Saul, the first king of Israel in the Bible. A king always represents the will, the central desire of the individual, that is, their state of consciousness. Every desire expresses your will. When your desires are carnal, it expresses a carnal consciousness. When your desires aim to elevate, to improve, to progress in the knowledge of spiritual things, you are in a spiritual consciousness. Material consciousness is carnal consciousness, but mixed with intellectual knowledge only. There is not yet the healthy curiosity to explore heights, and even less the effort to transform oneself as we do. Materialism readily accepts explanations of the visible type. Its earthly logic, common sense, is limited to the physical and commercial, and doubts much of anything spiritual. There is a consciousness higher than material consciousness, but which does not surpass it by much. It is astral consciousness. It belongs to the individual who believes in life after death, that is, who admits that there is something, and that the individual does not simply disappear because they are buried in a cemetery. This type of consciousness does not refuse to attend seances, may retain many doubts about it, but also does not make efforts to seek explanations or to educate themselves about it in particular. Open astral consciousness is one that firmly believes in communication with the dead. which seeks it out by habit, entrusts all its problems to spirits, follows all the advice it receives by this means, and all spirit manifestations such as materializations, apports, apparitions, etc. On the other hand, spiritual consciousness is not satisfied with second-hand guides and advice. It seeks direction in spirit rather than from spirits, in the inner Christ, the only safe direction, because it is He, the inner Christ, the direct representative of the living God, who knows what suits Him particularly, exclusively. Although in perfect harmony with the entire universe between the two consciousnesses, astral consciousness and material consciousness, it is better to have material consciousness. It is entirely concerned and occupied with matters concerning here, on the plane, in its physical condition. This is not the case with astral consciousness, which tries to mix the conditions of the two planes, the astral and the physical, which only brings confusion, frustration, and stagnation. Spirits who live in the conditions of the astral plane, however good and noble they may be, cannot give physical advice, any more than humans can solve the astral problems of the inhabitants of that plane, even if they know earthly conditions because they have lived those experiences in flesh and blood. When the transition is made from these conditions to those, they begin to transform themselves, to forget themselves, and the individual's consciousness dilutes in such a way that it is comparable to the following example. Imagine an individual who moves to another country. For example, he leaves his tropical country to live in Scotland. After many years spent there among barren, rocky mountains, in mist surrounded by reserved people, in conditions requiring heating, a foreign language, goat meat, and the sound of bagpipes. Do you think that once he has adapted and transformed in that environment, he can provide effective help with a problem posed to him by letter? No, isn't it? The help or advice would be tinted with the colours of his Scottish life, which constitute a different world from the tropical world. That's the difference. The astral is one world, the physical another. The kings of the Bible each represent a different state of consciousness. When you read the Bible and encounter a king, that king represents you. It's you, and it reveals your state of consciousness at the moment. By opening the Bible through the law of attraction, you find yourself. Saul was the first king of Israel. Before Saul, Israel was governed by judges, according to the provisions left by Moses. But the Israelites began to ask for a king. They aspired to live the life they saw in the kingdoms. They believed they would be freer under a king. Here is the key to Saul's symbolism: the will for freedom, the desire to rid themselves of the chains that constrain them. The metaphysical meaning of the name Saul is desired, claimed, and the definition is the action of the will to achieve what it desires. Saul was a kind of cowboy, a man of the pampas or a cowboy. Note how his human condition matches the symbol he represents. He was looking for a herd of mules belonging to his father, which had become frightened and scattered in the fields. Not finding them, he went to consult Samuel the prophet, who had the reputation of finding lost things. Samuel was a notorious medium among the men of the plains and prairies, who spent their lives working among cattle and animals. The superstitious, who are addicted to tales of ghosts and spirits, have an astral consciousness, which is a typical consciousness of primitive, less evolved races. It is an almost natural consciousness for those who live very close to nature, who observe its phenomena and interpret them in their own way. These people are generally what are called willing, stubborn, reserved, a little shy but very courageous in the face of difficulties. Thus Saul represents personal will. Samuel received inspiration to anoint him because he had been informed by the Spirit that he would be the first king of Israel in the Bible. Pagans represent those who are under carnal or sensory consciousness. By accepting Jehovah and gaining some spiritual understanding, they are called Israelites. Saul was going to be the king of Israel, but he was still in personal consciousness. Although he believed in one God and had been instructed in the religious practices of the time, he hesitated between two paths. When something happened and he couldn't resolve it, he would run to consult the medium, just as humans do today. All those who are still under personal bondage easily deviate from the practice of truth. They become very nervous, wanting to know what will happen, forgetting that the future is in their own hands, and go to consult fortune tellers and mediums. Going around in circles, we realize that God only wants the best for us, that our word and our faith bring us everything we desire. We are tempted to associate with fortune tellers, card readers, on one side. Saul was guided by his higher self, but on the other hand he was disloyal. When his closed thoughts obscured his inspiration, when he did not receive messages through dreams, he went to consult the witch of Endor, who invoked the spirit of Samuel after his death, as the spiritualists do here and now. She repeated to Saul what the spirit said. If Saul had obeyed the spiritual law, he would have patiently waited until he received by intuition the answer he was seeking. It would never have been late. This requires discipline and faith, but somehow the Spirit communicates to us everything we need to know with great satisfaction. But Saul hesitated and betrayed his knowledge of the truth. What happened to him is what happens to many who venture into the astral plane and follow the advice given to them by the various spirits of that plane. He went mad, sometimes furious, sometimes melancholic. This is very significant, and the one who managed to soothe the mad king was David with his music. This illustrates the power of David's love to harmonize the discord aroused by violent will. In coming to the study of David and Saul, I just want you to know that I do not in any way approve of contact with the astral plane. This falls under what the Bible calls idolatry, because the individual who puts their faith in the astral, which shows only partial phenomena and powers, replaces the absolute with the inferior. Nothing is forbidden, we all have free will. We are only advised to maintain balance, not to abuse in order to remain in goodness. Recently, very relevant. Current information has come through the Bridge to Freedom magazine, a message from the Ascended Master Saint-Germain, in which he mentions for the first time the occurrence of cataclysms that impress and affect humanity so much, with good reason, because the press continues to bombard with ultimatum-type articles that leave no apparent way out. The Master has taken steps to offer refuge and protection against annihilation, threatening to produce spirits who ignore the law of cause and effect. However, the Master says textually that this is not to generate fear, but in order to better prepare for future service. It is true that the Master admits that there are certain planetary and cosmic changes about which we do not yet know. At those times, sometimes we have only 5 minutes warning to prepare these devoted students for our service, but if the student body is not sufficiently prepared to integrate into the mental spiritual rescue movement, they will not be good conductors of radiation. It's just common sense, that is, wisdom, for chelists to gather and prepare themselves, and be able to enter into collective action at the moment of crisis as soon as possible, and for all to have a number of appropriate decrees at hand, or better yet, memorized, to act personally and avoid catastrophe. The Master also explains that since we all have divergent energy impulses within our causal bodies, that we have different personalities, different types, that we belong to different races and are in a period of transition, we cannot expect to reach complete unity and perfect expression of harmony within ourselves and at this time. But we are seeking an effective form of application, a treatment that must not be confused to produce an instantaneous manifestation for the planet. The Master says to remember, dear hearts, to stay centered, adjusted, and balanced in the triple flame within your hearts, to act quickly in emergencies and unexpected changes. There are radiations that can be consciously brought and invoked at any time by those beings of the I Am presence, whose physical bodies are rested, their mental bodies alert, and their etheric bodies purified. The Master recommends invoking the I Am presence to go where the souls we have injured in one of our past lives are, as well as the animals we have mistreated or sacrificed on the altars of religious sacrifice in the past, and to transmute them with the violet flame that the Great Presence can locate in any realm, temple of ascension, whether incarnated or not, and it will gladly balance the debt in an hour or in a single instant. This is important for your effectiveness in service. The Master says other things that I will mention to you in the rest of this latest news, for he has given me, if not the formula for instant application for the planet, at least a formula. It only depends on my own humble understanding. And now let's get into the subject. As a simple reminder, I will ask you, have you heard and felt the beats of your heart? You already know the great secret of the permanent atom within each heart. For you already know that within this atom are the three sparks known as the triple flame. You know very well that as soon as they are recognized and blessed by someone, the capsule enveloping this atom breaks, and the triple flame emerges, becoming thereafter the garment of Christ. Everyone knows that the beating of the heart proves that a person is alive, of course. When one wants to know if a person is alive or dead, they feel their chest or pulse, so this beat signifies life. And how do metaphysicians call this life? God. God is life. Life is God. Thus, even atheists know that when the heart beats, it is a symbol of life. Even doctors who claim not to have found the soul in an operated body know that this beat is life. It is life. We are taught that the beat represents tons of energy entering the physical temple. Pure energy, that is, life, love, truth, intelligence, power, health, and many virtues that are God, such as justice, consideration, patience, faith, etc. All derive from the three great flames: love, intelligence, and power. And we all know that all this is the great presence of God within our hearts. Well, we all know that these beats come from the presence above our heads. This energy descends through the silver cord, through the crown chakra, directly to the heart. Each beat represents the gathering of all these powers and virtues. Each beat is proof of the presence of God. I am in you. Now grasp the secret of mastery and control. Grasp the formula that the Master gives us to take action and avoid catastrophe. Take a moment to calm yourself and think of the heart of one person or thousands. Remember the beats. Listen and feel your beats. Remember that your heart and those of others beat in the same way and at the same time, and they throb in unison, together and willingly. Although you only know it, for the Master Saint-Germain says, "Where you focus your attention, there you are engaged. You become this. You have entered the heart or hearts of others, and through your higher vibration you have dominated the lower vibrations." Moreover, you already know the metaphysical maxim: one with God is the majority, and the other of Master Jesus, where he says, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there in the midst of them." What does this mean? If one with God is the majority, 2 or more are the whole, and therein lies the secret of the formula. You have made the hearts beat at your rhythm. They have calmed down and entered into a state of peace. It is when the door of presence opens so that it can descend and dispense its gifts. The reaction of Christ is instantaneous, and now you will find the formula in many sites. Let's take Psalm 46, almost at random. Become aware of each word and each phrase. Calm down, Isabel, I am God. Even if the earth shakes, even if the mountains are shaken in the midst of the sea's waves, even if the waters roar and surge, even if the mountains totter under their pressure, we will not tremble, for in our midst is God. God will come to our aid at daybreak. His voice will melt the earth. It is He who puts an end to war to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow, shatters the spear, and sets fire to the shields. Calm down, Isabel, I am God. A river with its streams makes the city of God rejoice. The city of God is consciousness, and the river is energy, the sanctuary where the Most High resides. Come and see the wonders of Yahweh. I am the wonders wrought upon the earth. You notice that the psalm precisely mentions earthly and maritime cataclysms as well as wars. You have understood that the psalm describes what we are studying here, the instantaneous action of God in the sanctuary where the Most High resides. This river with its streams is the current that you establish from your heart to the heart of another or others, and it is instantaneous. God does not have to wait unless you forbid him to act because of your free will. And here is a very important thing. Note well that the Master said that we must act quickly during sudden changes, that we must be attentive and alert when coming together. But we must not waste time in those meditations that many of you love, where each one feels inspired, speaks and decrees at length. These devotions stretch out and last for hours on end. During this time, says the Master, the beloved presence and the Christ remain hands on hands, waiting for you to finish speaking, to begin acting and granting what you have asked for. The emotional body likes to listen to itself. It doesn't care that others endure this harangue. You call it meditation. I will copy what the Masters call the usual meditations of Kutumi and Sengerman. The first one is included in the daily meditations of our teaching, Master Kutumi says, "Dear hearts, do not make huge efforts to seek the presence of God. Calm down and find it in the peace of your sensory sense. Realize that the majestic power of God is in the beating of your hearts, and allow this divine nature to illuminate your own world with all the power and love of God's presence." The second one is found in the Violet Saturday meditation. Learn to calm down, even in the absence of urgency. Practice calming your physical bodies, your thoughts, your etheric memories, and then gently envelop yourself in the Supreme Being until you feel anchored in peace. Then the Master adds that with just one person doing this, a city is saved. Now the Master suggests disclosing the movement that he himself calls the universal heartbeat, where he asks us to focus our attention on our hearts, listen to the beats, think about the energy that the presence exerts, and then think about the beats of others, whether they are thousands or millions. Pay no attention if you don't want to, but simply check the miracle that will manifest simultaneously. 3 people had the vision of a large red heart beating at the golden center and bordered by blue and pink. One of them saw thousands of beings entering or joining. This is the confirmation that the Master gives us. Now I will tell you something very important. Pay attention. The Master says, try to live above the tensions that disturb the majority on earth. You will never be able to survive as a spiritual movement, not even as a spiritual group, if you remain below what I think I call the watermark, that is, the edge where the shore goes. Where there is fear, all kinds of discomfort and problems, intolerance, hatred, anger, rebellion, jealousy. If you live there, then you are part of human creation and the human mind. You are at the bottom, not on the surface as you believe. You cannot throw them the cord of instruction or teaching to raise them from darkness to the light of God, which never fails. How can you be there with them, and deliberately? Let me tell you, I will not say your name, but you know who I am referring to every time we talk. I hear you repeating the same things over and over again. You repeat and hammer them. Never have I heard you mention the virtues and colors of your triple flame, nor the permanent atom of anyone. Yet you have this habit, you have the names of diseases, doctors, medicines, your faults and problems. How do you expect to get out of this state? This is what the Master calls the watermark, and I advise you to start listening to the beats of your own heart today, to learn to listen to those of others. Remember that you can heal everything, your illnesses and those of others, your problems and those of others, your faults and those of others, just by thinking of your heart and that of others, and remembering that the beats are manifestations of virtues like health, harmony, patience, faith, serenity, peace. In short, the perfection that is descending into your heart and that of others. And the compensation is already a fact that is manifesting. I repeat, the movement that Master Saint-Germain wishes to disclose immediately is that of learning to listen first to the beat of your own heart, to think about the immense volume of pure energy that enters with each beat, and to affirm, I am the universal heartbeat. The leader of my environment, in the name of the power and authority of my beloved presence, I decree that unity with God is the majority, that 2 or more form the whole. This has been learned by heart and affirmed in every negative circumstance presenting itself on the planet, with absolute faith in the immediate action of the I Am presence, for the universal heartbeat decreed and realized by the I Am presence is the union of all hearts in the universe. So that you don't waste your time, I'll repeat what has already been taught to you. But I realize that there are disciples who have not yet understood the following, so I repeat it now with new words to penetrate them better and not waste their time. Metaphysics encompasses all the teachings that have existed on planet Earth until now. If you are a student of metaphysics, if you absorb the layers and can practice what you learn within the Brotherhood, you're checking whether you have absorbed everything the Masters have given so far and whether you have progressed to the point of moving to the next level. You don't need to join lower orders or sects. Some students descend, attracted by the phenomenal aspect of the sects we call minor. Listen carefully, they are called minor because they still act on the emotional plane. They have not yet reached the mental plane. They are still Pisces. Fish live in water. Water is representative of emotion. The sea represents the emotional plane, exhaled like tears. Aquarius is a man carrying a vessel of water on his shoulder, the man who has mastered water and uses it as and when he wants, in small quantities and sparingly, after having mastered his emotionality and using it intelligently. You must already know that it is not that emotion is bad, it is very good to have great emotional depth. However, it must be managed with great intelligence, balanced with intelligence.
Intelligent if you are emotional and that you are about making affirmations every time you feel dominated by emotion intelligence and the golden flame, and by meditating a lot on intelligence.
Tell your emotional body, calm down, I refuse to let you overflow, obey your superior. The superior is the mental plane. Metaphysics is a mental teaching, and you are supposed to be already a spiritual adult and have abandoned childish whims, whining, and psychic tantrums. You reason and discern now, and so you deserve to enter the mental plane, the age of Aquarius, just as Pisces was the age of emotion and negativity. Hinduism is the oldest religious system on the planet, even being confused with the history of the Asian continent itself. Yoga has overflowed the limits of Hinduism to extend to Taoism, Buddhism, etc. It is said that there are as many yogas as there are yogis. For them, mastering the emotional and psychic is the quintessential domain of matter and the astral body. Later, they could not penetrate further because they would have had to enter the mental plane, and the masters did not give them mental principles. For them, the most exalted is to release the soul into samadhi, a psychic and emotional plane. Their knowledge consists of seeing flowers, smelling perfumes, and traveling astrally. They do not yet know how to bring the I Am presence back into the physical body. They do not yet know the inner Christ. These teachings were introduced by Master Jesus Christ. Metaphysics is Christian, and Hindus are Buddhists long before Christianity. In emotional domains, it was very difficult to control the emotional body. After reading the monograph Parece Mentira, you know what happens with emotional outbursts and self-hypnotic practices. The etheric double separates from the physical body, producing psychic vision, distortion, disorder, illness. You should already have graduated in these teachings, because what they do is freeze you in outdated and obsolete times, sending you back to the past, crystallizing you like Lot's wife, thus wasting your time. The Order of the Rose Cross was founded in Germany in the 11th century by a group chaired by Christian Rosenkreuz, who, as you know well, was a previous incarnation of the Ascended Master in German. In each century, an adept came to introduce a new level to advance humanity in the knowledge of truth. Although it was brought to the planet by the avatar of this age of Aquarius, it does not mean that it is valid, except for those who cannot yet fully grasp metaphysical teachings. The Rosicrucianism that has come down to us today has unacceptable limits, notably the practice of searching for and studying past incarnations, which crystallizes, like Lot's wife, preventing progress. Freemasonry dates back to the year 1717, after having been a simple artisan guild, but today it is also riddled with limitations and delays. The Martinist order, founded by Martinez de Pasquale and his secretary and disciple Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin, was another step in the ladder of aspects of truth. However, it is surpassed by Christian metaphysics and the I Am activity. The same goes for Gnosticism, all Protestant derivations, and even the most modern Christian sciences, etc., as these are steps towards metaphysics, as Rafael Zamora's message for Hispano-America told you. These ascended masters, Moria, Kut Humi, Saint-Germain, Joao Kuhl, to summarize all that had been given to the planet and to dispel doubts in human minds, personally dictated to Elena Blavatsky all the theosophical teaching, like an encyclopedia for anyone seeking to inquire about any obscure subject. This includes Christianity, occultism, spiritualism, Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, Jewish mysticism, Rosicrucianism, Martinism, Buddhist traditions, Hinduism, karma, life after death, the causes of evil, hermetic laws, planes, rays, emergencies, magic, purification, perfection, etc. Thus, there is no excuse to remain ignorant or behind. Anyone on the spiritual path has, at their fingertips, the answer to any question that comes to mind. Theosophy is neither a path nor a religion. It is a spiritual dictionary given in person, face to face, from master to disciple, by the masters of wisdom, to the misunderstood Elena Blavatsky. In 1802, the masters began to send the teaching of new thought to the planet through Dr. Phineas Quimby and his disciple Waldo, author of At One Ment with the Infinite, whose famous phrase is the greatest of eternal truths. The recognition of our own divinity and our intimate relationship with the universe is equivalent to attaching the belt of our machine to the driving force of the universe. All schools that stem from this are repetitions of the same transcendental theme, namely the practice of the presence of God, I am, in me, in each one, in everything, here, there, and beyond. When one reaches this final teaching, one has reached God sooner or later. One finds it in one's center, and all previous sects and religions become obsolete, useless, superfluous. Remember, they only cause loss and waste of time, sending you to seek God in vain, delaying and crystallizing you like Lot's wife. He who achieves the practice of the presence of God through the activity I am, if he has not surpassed everything in his past lives, his Christ, his I am presence, is one and only. This will lead him to all truth. It is a biblical promise. So, brothers and sisters, do not linger willingly on the lower rung, for we have little time left to choose between ascending with the planet or descending to a lower planet for having wasted this opportunity, thus losing time, losing this incarnation. I bless your Christ and ask that he enlighten you, governmental protection for Venezuela, the United States of America, and for the whole world, with all the power and authority of the beloved presence I am in me. I declare and decree that all official government positions in Venezuela, the United States, and worldwide be sealed, sealed, sealed with the luminous presence and the shining heart, like a diamond of the ascended Master and beloved El Moria, individually and collectively. May the will of God manifest through and around the governments of Venezuela, the United States of North America, and worldwide, today and forever. May only those chosen by the ascended Masters of Wisdom truly occupy key governmental positions so that the grand plan of God is properly fulfilled. Beloved and ascended Master El Moria, take immediate, complete and full command, control and possession of the governments and their peoples, as well as all existing governments and peoples on planet Earth. We decree that the light of God that never fails possesses, guides and governs all incarnated beings everywhere on planet Earth. We thank you. Heal everything. I will speak to you in assured terms, which means that you will understand and learn in less than a minute. That is the time it takes you to listen to this. I warn you that this is timed. Furthermore, I warn you that you will love it and want to share it with the whole world. In authentic metaphysical language, we call it the universal beat, but you can call it heal everything, because you will notice that it heals the evil that torments you, be it a disease, a problem, a situation or circumstance or whatever else. No matter what it is, no matter what is wrong, heal everything fixes everything. So now, look at the clock to see how long it takes you to learn the treatment or how long you do it. This is a treatment. We will call it the remedy or medicine, as you prefer. Let's go. At the same instant you feel unwell, or at the same instant a problem arises, or at the same instant you see it in another, take your pulse. This is done by placing the tip of one of your thumbs on your wrist of the opposite arm, as a doctor does until you feel the beat of your heart. Take a moment to enjoy it as it is pleasant. Here is the first step. The second step is to reflect well. Where does this beat come from that produces it in me? Try to answer these two questions yourself, because you see you are neither attached to another being, nor connected to electricity, nor planted in the garden. You are free and independent, and even if you were suspended in space, you would still feel the beat of your heart. The third step is to say aloud, Our Father, I invoke you into action 3 times, and now say, Thank you, Father, for hearing me. Now forget it. Do not think about the disease or problem anymore. Repeat the remedy, heal everything 3 times a day, as prescribed by the doctor. You know how long it takes. I hope you won't forget to check your clock. Don't just take my word for it. Try it out. You have nothing to lose. I know you're going to say, but when you take your pulse when feeling unwell, it doesn't relieve anything. That's true, but nobody enjoys taking their pulse. First, they usually do it with great fear of finding it too fast. Then they immediately declare with great conviction, I am sick, I am very unwell. This is what we call a decree, and by doing so they decree that there is no other choice but to manifest it. It's metaphysics, but they don't know it. Finally, the only thing they think to do is to call the doctor and fill their bodies with chemicals. The big difference lies in remaining calm, thinking of good and positive things like life, health, etc., and invoking the most advanced individuals who already know the wonderful metaphysics. We remind you to think that the heartbeat means life, health, strength, balance, harmony, peace, etc., and that everyone receives the same conditions. That's why we add our thanks. Another one of Conny's latest bulletins, the unicorn. You've already heard me talk about the changes to come. It's not that they are close, but we have them with us every time you feel unpleasant, discontented or unwell with dizziness or confusion. I beg you to immediately say, I am a torch of violet fire, and everything negative around me is instantly transmuted. And repeat that as many times as you can, every day and even at night if you wake up in a dream. It's very important for you and for the entire planet. I'll explain the changes for this new era to you. They are brought by the light that is spreading all over the planet. You know that this light spins within us in the form of a circle and spiral, spinning so fast that it causes confusion. It's like a blender that aims to break down the crystallizations we have accumulated over many lives, just like the things you put in your blender. Of course, it's wonderful that the light pushes you to get out of all anger, bitterness, and other accumulations of misused energy in your subconscious, in your mental etheric body, and in your aura. But this carries a serious danger. This acceleration can make you lose contact with the Christ, for when the being feels unwell, he forgets his spiritual consciousness and only responds to what his body dictates. The danger lies in the fact that those who have practiced spiritualism and witchcraft are likely to be penetrated by entities from psychic planes, taking advantage of the distress felt by the person. That's why I warn you not to waste a minute feeling anything negative, a sour mood, desires to criticize, paying attention to gossip, or any lack of charity. All this opens a breach to a plane that must be kept closed forever. Don't risk losing this incarnation when just knowing your presence makes you a candidate for ascension. God saves you with the violet flame, because no one can be saved without it. You have already experienced it. Tomorrow you cannot say that no one told you. Words of experience are not reserved for children or beginners. They are there to remind metaphysical adults of what they learned in their past lives. If you learned astronomy or astrology or both sciences, you will remember very well everything I am going to say. If you haven't learned it before, it will be wonderful for you to discover it. Finally, the zodiac. This immense cosmic clock of 12 signs, 12 hours that guides our lives, takes about 2,160 years to move through each sign. Each hour or sign represents a lesson that humanity must learn, a lesson about the truth of being and the truth of human progress or evolution. It is the passage, for example, from savagery to barbarism, from barbarism to civilization, from civilization to what we are now going to learn, namely, illumination. The clock is eternally turning. Each of us has made many rounds. Every time you finish one round, you start the next one, but at a higher level. That's why some are more advanced than others. The sign we have just finished, as you already know, is that of Pisces. In this hour, planet Earth represents man exposed to his emotions, and he must learn to master them. In a previous round, we were fish, and it was our turn to know life in the water. For us humans, water symbolizes the emotional, psychic, astral body. For man, it is very difficult to master this element. Emotions are like waves. The slightest shock stirs them up. Humans get offended for nothing, get upset, get irritated, and resist until death. What is affected by this is what metaphysics calls personality. The age of Pisces has been very challenging, full of wars and persecutions. This is part of the perfect divine order for man to learn self-control and self-discipline. But now, The great mass has understood the lesson. The proof of this is that with the arrival of Aquarius several years ago, there will be no more world wars, even if Christians still believe in it. Let me clarify one thing for you. Nothing and no one can remain, regress, or prolong something Christian on the planet when this era is already over. If some have not grasped the lesson, or are not up to date, they will have to repeat it, as is done for children in school. For the law of correspondence says that as above, so below, and as below, so above. The difference is that spiritually delayed adults are sent to a more backward planet. Logically, one cannot remain on a planet that enters a sign as high as Aquarius, which is intended for the seventh race or the Superman. Nothing and no one can establish or prolong something that is already outdated in a sign. I warn you because there is a movement that seeks to revive systems of temples and rituals contrary to the law of correspondence. May God look upon them with his mercy. Each sign causes a revolution in everything: life, customs, trends, common ideas. Aquarius is the man who already knows how to master his emotional body. He carries water in a container. He uses it as he wishes. Moreover, different currents of the era lie at his feet and he crosses them undisturbed. Electric currents, electronic currents, aquatic currents, ideas. Nothing disturbs him. His emotivity is under his control. Our racial memory contains nothing beyond the era of Taurus, the Egyptian era. Despite the pyramids, the hieroglyphs, and something very important that Akhenaton introduced, namely the worship of the one God, it did not survive. Idolatry towards animals, birds, and oxen disappeared. The next era was that of Aries. The goat turned into the paschal lamb of the Hebrew religion. It was the time of Moses and Abraham. The worship of the one God persisted, and Moses revealed the name of God, I Am, which remained secret until now because the translation of the Hebrew name, Jehovah, was not popular. You will have noticed that each religion brings two levels of wisdom or teaching. One is moralizing and public, aimed at forming good citizens, good parents, up to good professional ethics, all leading to the construction of buildings, churches, temples where souls were formed in groups, guided by faith. The system spread through rituals, clothing, choirs, almost theatrical spectacles, processions, etc., specially designed to attract those who see without seeing and hear without hearing, as expressed by Master Jesus. The second level of teaching and wisdom was secret because it was based on self-illumination. This is only achieved in solitude, in contact with the higher self, through meditation, silence, that is, withdrawal from the noisy world, the worst enemy of this self-illumination that speaks to us of inner truth. As long as personality dominates us, it is difficult to reach internal revelations. Master Jesus could not transmit the major mysteries to Peter and the other apostles for obvious reasons, after having trained them in the minor mysteries, after living 3 years with them. At a crucial moment, Peter denied him 3 times, Judas betrayed and sold him. The only ones he taught the major mysteries to were his mother Mary and John, the beloved disciple. The ascended Master Saint-Germain, God, freedom, the Aquarian avatar, revealed to us in his last message that he was John in this incarnation, and that at St. Joseph he temporarily transmigrated to assist and protect Mary and Jesus. The esoteric Christianity that John received and taught to his own disciples formed the group called the Johannites, and eventually formed such an impressive body that it alarmed the Church of Peter. This began the struggle to declare heretical anything that came from self-illumination. The Johannites had to emigrate and take refuge in Europe, passing through Greece where the title of Gnostic Greeks emerged. Gnosis means knowledge of spiritual things. They arrived in Transylvania, where eventually the Kingdom of Hungary was formed as a political defense. Christian Gnostic doctrine was able to survive because the imperial Catholicism of the House of Hamburg annexed Hungary to Austria. The heir to this throne was Prince Rákóczi, leader of Johannite Gnosticism and creator of the key of transmutation. He gave to John the beloved Jesus Christ as a sign of approval of the entire process of his ascension. Through the centuries, the esoteric Sun King Louis XIV of France then welcomed Prince Rákóczi from Transylvania and, having given him the castle of Saint-Germain-en-Laye near Paris, allowed the prince to present himself at the court of France with the title of Count of Saint-Germain. thus hiding his identity to avoid any claim to the throne of Romania. John's spirit has always been incarnated. His true name was Leopold John Rákóczi. According to the Ascended Masters, contemplation is the highest form of prayer. In simple words, the formula appears in the Veiled Mysteries of the Ascended Master Saint-Germain on page 11 of the original English version, and then in the daily meditations of the Bridge to Freedom on Monday's page by Master Gudmi, Master of Wisdom. This humble servant never intends to shorten or improve the teaching presented by the beloved Masters. She only presents it in the form approved by the White Hierarchy and as a service to humanity. As it cannot be sold, I ask you to allow anyone who wishes to copy it. Psalm 46 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness is physical, mental, and emotional. It means that when you feel anxious, broken, disturbed, soothe your body, mind, and emotions. Think of nothing. It is said that it is very difficult to think of nothing, but I will give you an established secret. When the storm threatens, the first thing you see is a huge flash. You already know that thunder will follow this flash, and everyone remains still waiting until the rumble is there. It is precisely this attitude of waiting that is the act of thinking of nothing. Learn to prolong this suspension, and you will have learned to think of nothing. You will be calmed as the psalm dictates. You will feel or think of nothing, but something unusual will happen for some. In this silence, you will suddenly realize that you hear the beats of your heart strongly, like never before. And intentionally you have given God the opportunity to be heard by you, because this beat that you hear now, it is God in you, it is your life. I suppose you already know the universal heartbeat. It is proof that you are alive, proof that God is in you, alive and moving for the first time on planet Earth. It is becoming aware that the heart is the temple not made with hands, mentioned in the Bible, and it is the true temple of the new era. God is life, and you will feel and hear him in his temple, in your heart. Now let's move on to the second step of the exercise. At 7 o'clock in the morning, when the sun is clearly visible above the horizon, go to a window to look at it face to face. Do not be alarmed. You should not stare at the sun, as it is impossible. It's just a glance, because the light is unbearable and it is dangerous to stare at the sun. But it is very important for you. This look will remain engraved forever. The brightness, the image of the sun, is the true radiant and shining presence of God, and you need to imprint it in your mind. You will feel the desire to look at it again, because it is fascinating, this electronic mantle of presence. Look at it as many times as you feel the desire, but one time is enough to center yourself in your presence. What you must do daily is to associate yourself with this light and visualize it in memory, thinking of the power, mastery, nature of your presence, and gradually try to fully integrate yourself into this light of love, life, truth, light, etc., saying, "I am that." We have 13 billion cells in the brain, and it only takes your will for the light to penetrate truly. This is the way to accept your ascension. It is your initiation into a deeper level of functioning. I give you the words of Master Kutumi from the daily meditations. Dear hearts, do not make huge efforts to find the presence of God. Calm down and find it in the peace of your sensory world. Open your eyes and realize that the majestic power of God is in the beats of your hearts. Now, allow the radiant nature of divinity to burn through your flesh to witness to the conviction that lights up your own world with the almighty power and love of the presence of God. Every morning as you meditate on the nature of your presence, the power of your presence, the mastery of your presence, after contemplating it for a while, make an extra effort and try to be this presence only for half an hour. But be wary of the worm of spiritual pride that often arises in the very heart of your beautiful spiritual flower, seeking to destroy its perfection. As you will have noticed above all, a precise chronology on the planet always stands out without deviation. The sign of the cross, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is an intimate ritual, but visible to all human beings, which they must observe, because it is a decree formulated daily since the era of Aries, just as it is followed in Moses' temple. The era of Jehovah represents the Father. The Christian Church was that of Jesus, representing the Son. The era of Aquarius is spiritual, representing the Holy Spirit, as the Bible says, the temple not made with hands, that is, the heart of man where I am God resides. You have noticed that the great fraternity of Saint-Germain, following the postulates of the Aquarian avatar, God Freedom, did not publicly expose itself this year during Thanksgiving, because gratitude and the act of thanking the Father are the offering of love contemplated in the heart of each son, its unique temple. Another of Conny Méndez's latest newspaper, Caracas Alert from October 18, 1979, reminds you of what the Bible says about the time when sects and groups claiming to be Christ multiply. Remember that Master Jesus announced it. They will come to you saying, I am of Peter, of Paul, etc. You are nothing but your great presence. Take your pulse and in front of the beats of your heart, repeat, this is life, this is God, I am, I am, I am. Do not let yourself be threatened. The one who threatens does so because he has neither power nor mastery. Masters never threaten because they know that only the law acts impersonally. Remember that God manifests his will through actions, and it is by their fruits that you will recognize them. Juana Maria de la Concepción Méndez with a poem for mothers. Tell me who is the one who always forgives, who forgets everything without resentment. Yesterday, your antics, today, your follies. She kisses you, blesses you, and fills you with love. Finding your piles of clothes, your things, the same disorder, the messy bathroom, she picks up, dries, and organizes for you. She never tires of chasing after you, of carefully watching, of touching to cover you, protect you because you sneezed. Now that you are grown up, single or married, you know she told you, the dark secret that you keep inside, that no one knows, no one in the world. Free your soul. You will be silent in front of the only person you can count on, the only being who will not let you down, who will defend you against tides and winds. You will see her swear that all this is a lie, that it was not your fault, that someone pushed you. You will have nothing to fear from her anger because you are perfect and everything is over. And who is this saint, this blessed martyr who seeks neither glory nor fame, none of that, because it is yours, mine, everyone's equally, the only one who answers to the name of Mom. Last thought she left us. I am by the law of the one with the heart of God. I am the heart of God, at the very center of the movement of the waves of the sea and the wind that moves them. I am the love of God, Father, Mother, sweet and tender, in every movement in the entire ocean, symbol of the emotional body of the Father, Mother. I am God. And now, soften and deflect any appearance of violence in the heart of the earth and the sea.